Okay, we're going to know this thing will be that, and that's the one. If they put it down. See, I didn't. They run because they have their own manufacturing, they had to run one to the front. The way we do it. Well, this is the start. I don't know where you're going to see. I've got no. We start on race. Was almost. Yeah, I saw that. He's got a great place. He can go. I don't want to serve a hundred minutes. He wants to give the guy this. Yeah, that one is funny. And it was like, well, anyway. And also, you just get on to check your cell phones and make sure you're on. Oh, you better set it down. I had to flip it, so mine.
Testing, Dan, testing.
No.
Testing, testing. Hear me? Hello, Dan.
Yeah, pretty soft. I don't know if we can, is it pointing toward or away from it?
Here, you fix it. Okay, Dan, how's that? Better? Better?
Yeah.
And how's this?
I got, it was just the one picture, I think.
Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah,
So,
Let's see.
testing, Dan. Still good?
yes.
Okay, great. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is your? Hello, hello? Did it work?
Second.
Mine's muted.
What's the story with these?
I have no idea.
Oh, one of two are actually here.
All right, good evening.
Recording.
Should be on. Can
You ready?
you guys hear us on the Zoom?
Okay, and we've got our recording going. Supervisor Lee,
Here.
Supervisor Phillips,
Here.
Supervisor Castle,
Present.
and Supervisor Kramer is present, and we do have one open seat. But we do have a quorum, so we will continue on with our meeting this evening. The next item on our agenda is audience comments. That's a time that anyone from the audience can speak to the board and give their information, their ideas, and their concerns. It's not a time period for a back and forth with any particular board member. But we are interested in hearing what you all have to say and what your concerns are. So at this time, is there anyone here that has a comment from the audience?
Yeah, I definitely like to address the board.
Yes, sir. If you'll come up and
Well, I can
watch.
stay here, you know.
No, we've got a-
Air problem, so I don't want to have to stand, but.
Well, if you could then just slide your chair up. We have
Okay,
to
that'd be
get it
good.
on the.
Yeah, that's fine.
The mic should pick them up from there. Just
You think-
Speak up.
Brian will put a chair
Okay,
up for everybody.
that's okay. I'm sorry about it.
Sorry, no. I understand. Yeah, we
But
just.
sometimes I get in trouble fishing and that's my problem.
Just watch your head on this
Just
light
watch your head
trickster.
on the-
Yeah, that'd be a good one. And until moment you guys beat me up.
I
Well, listen, I'm
need your name. and
Neville
address.
Pennington and I live at 3447 Sagebrush Street. I built a new home here in 2016,
Right.
primarily to get off of the ocean. I was over there for 18, 19 years. So I wanted to get closer to the lakes, Kissimmee and all of them. So we looked for a place to build our house and get down here for 4 months a year. And we came in here before the lakes were built. It was all sand and everything. Got the first lot, built our house. Love Buck Lake. I love the amenities. I love the championship golf course. I don't play golf. But I'm willing to pay that premium to have it to drive back, see it, the scenery. The other thing is I've used the boats on Buck Lake probably more than anyone else in the 4-month period I'm here. But the last 2 years, the operation of the boat docks and the boats and the equipment have went south for the last 2 years. Now, for the first 5 years, everything was beautiful. If you needed to get new batteries, boom, new batteries. If a trolling motor went south, new trolling motor. That's not happening now. So last year I tried to buy the trolling motor myself on the bass boat. And it's a big thrust one. These little ones you got. If you get 6, 7 miles an hour and it takes you 20 minutes to get to the other side where that boat dock is, the old one, you can't, it takes you 30 minutes to get in. I mean, seriously, and that's a liability. But also, I came down early, November 29th this year. I said, it'll be better this year. I get down here and I get the bass boat for 2 days. I go over at 8 o'clock in the morning and Brad's down there and he said, man, you're gonna be mad. I said, why would I be mad? I'm tickled to death. I got hit out of that cold weather. I'm going fishing.
Really?
Well, the bass boat front trolling motor shot, won't run. So I'm a resident paying all these fees, extra fees for the amenities I'm not using. Okay. And you know, the CDD's collecting all of this stuff and spending it. And I know you got a lot of major projects, but it couldn't take that much to put a couple of real good thrust 80-pound trolling motors on that you had about 5 years ago. And you don't want to, you're not racing over there. You're trying to go fishing. And so if you go to the other side and the wind picks up, 80-pounder will allow you to get back. I've been pulled off of that lake twice this year. The first one was I went on the far end and I tried to come back in at a 60-mile-an-hour wind. The trolling motor on the back shot. I mean, it'll run the prop will go, but you can't move. The wind's pushing you backwards.
It's just not enough power.
That's the thing. And now I know you guys have to worry about bids and all this kind of stuff, everything else. But prior, if I remember correctly, they didn't have to get 3 bids on $500 expenditures.
We
I mean-
still don't.
Oh, you still do it. So,
Over 500.
Yeah.
well, I'm saying over 500, you can't buy anything for 500. So basically you've got your field managers taking heat from me and everybody else. And I've talked to 6 people that say they won't go down there anymore because it's a waste of time.
Well,
Okay.
again, it's not time for a back and.
Well,
forth.
I'm not, but that's just what
Well,
I'm saying. I
yes.
think the issue is, and the other one is you've got a major liability. I'm a retired executive. You've got a major liability with that gate. Anybody can come in there and do anything they want to do, not just our residents. It won't work. And I asked the question, well, how long has it been that way? Months. We're not building a battleship surely to goodness, somebody can go in there and have that gate. So
Okay.
we residents have to carry our little carts to get in and back. Okay. And so I have run into a couple of women over there and they had to clean out the kayaks because they had mud daubers.
Mhm.
And used to the boats were clean. You've got the little pump in the back to pump the water out. One day I went over there and it's up to my ankle because it wasn't plugged in. Now, the other thing I'll say is that supposedly on Tuesdays
Mhm.
is a maintenance day.
Right.
Well, there's nobody doing any maintenance in the last couple of years, okay? And I'll just say this for his behalf. Gerhard kept everything on top of everything. If you had to call and say, we need the batteries, boom, 3 days you got batteries. If you need a new trolling motor, he said, I can't find that one. Okay, well, I have a friend that owns the biggest Ranger deals. I can get anything
I
for you.
don't want to cut
Okay.
you short, but
Okay.
I think we definitely hear that we need to up our game in field services on boats. And we've heard you.
Okay, that's fine. I'll say one more thing, but you can't, I'm only down here for 4 months, so I don't want to sit here for another month. And I can't get on Buck Lake. I've been here now for 3 weeks and I've been on it 3 times because of nobody will buy new motors. And you're tying these guys' hands if they have to go get bids somewhere.
There. It's not a back and forth,
Okay.
but.
Well, as a
It's not a
resident,
problem.
okay.
It should have been corrected and
But
I'm
Teresa, I
very
apologize.
upset. This
Okay.
is a first. I think 2 days ago, I got an email about this and this is the first we've heard about it. So I'm glad you brought it to our attention. And we will make sure our field services staff. get on.
I've been bugging people about this for 2 years. I don't know if it didn't get back to the board, but has anybody been down there to look at it? To look at the shape this boats are in? The tracker, you look at the 2 seats, if it gets wet, your butt's gonna be wet all day. The bass boat, one of the bass looks like somebody took a knife and sliced it if it rains. So we're not able to use that facility. And that's one of your all's major responsibilities is to take care of the operation of the
Yes.
boat dock. Now,
Now, your 3 minutes is well more than.
well, and I
enough, so
appreciate that.
We have to move on.
Well,
to
can I
other
ask you one
comments.
question before I shut up? When are you gonna put a trolling motor on those boats? That your residents here can use them? I've located
Okay,
3,
I-
so you
It's
just
not
don't want to
back
talk
and
about
forth.
that.
We have to go back, we have to look at why this is happening and figure it out and get it straightened out. So we will do the best we can and get it straightened out.
And if
So-
you have a lead on sources for a trolling motor, for example.
What?
Please feel free to share it with us, you know.
Oh, I will. Okay, well, I've had boats for 60 years.
Okay,
I've had
I-
from the little ones to the big
right,
ones.
we're gonna be here all night. I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. but
Okay.
It's been 6 minutes now.
Well,
so
it's
we've
okay,
got-
but I want an answer of when are you gonna have a trolling motor that I can use the boat on the lake?
I can't give you an answer right now.
Why not? You're the
That's
board.
the problem.
Back and forth, but you're welcome to call any of us at any time and we can discuss it with you. Tonight is a board meeting where we take care of official business.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you giving me the time to
And
give.
I wish we had known about it, and you can always send us an email.
Well, can I go ahead and buy this trolling motor with 80 pounds? And I will have them shipped to me in 2 days and we'll put it on a bass boat so I can use it while I'm here. And then you reimburse me before I go back at the end of April? Can you do that?
I'm not sure.
Surely to gosh, if you guys buy it at $619 for a Minn Kota, it's 80-pound thrust, requires 2 batteries, 24 like the old ones that used to be on there.
I'll give you a call in the morning.
Yeah, if you would, I just want to use it. I mean, I'm gonna be here and I love Buck Lake, and every once in a while I'll take my wife out.
I was out there this afternoon. That's where
Well,
my
it's a
face is.
beautiful place. And you know,
Okay,
I'm out of here. I'm gonna get back, I'm gonna get back in my chair,
it's,
but I got it, but I would like to use that boat. And I will buy the trolling motor.
We got it. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
You can leave it there.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment, audience comments?
Real quick.
Name and address. for-
Peter Marshall, 6826 Goldflower, been here about 8.5 years. I just want to support what Neville said. I was out there today. The white pontoon boat down there is an embarrassment.
Yes.
It's disgusting looking. If I brought someone down there, the floor needs replacing. Just want to support him. We need to maintain it. It used to stay better.
We've
Thank
heard you loud and clear. Thank you for coming
They
tonight.
have 12-volt motors on the boats and that's not enough to push it.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Again, in support of Neville.
I'm more concerned about the dock.
We need.
My
your
name is Bill
and
Sinnott,
your address.
Bill Sinnott, 3362.
Excuse me, if the audience can be quiet for just a minute so we can hear the gentleman speaking.
Bill Sinnott, 3362 Sagebrush. I don't take the boats out because of the way they're describing it, but I do fish from the pier. And we've had, since last May, when the card reader went out, we've had a large number of outside of the area come in. I spoke to you there because I saw you down there. That is a problem. We're having numerous people there. They don't keep it neat or tidy. I'm always cleaning up. You know, I come down there, I'm finding fish on the dock. We need to address that gate control.
Yes, they've come out, they have done some maintenance on it, and what is it, next Tuesday?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow,
Are they coming back out tomorrow? Yes, coming out tomorrow.
so hopefully it will. be-
Yes, I think that's a big issue.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Loud and clear, thank you.
All right, any other public comment or audience comment for the board? Yes.
Violetta Wilzinski, 3115 Dark Sky Drive. We've been here since 2015. And my kids came here when the school used to be partly community school. So you had the 8th graders in there and the whole thing was beautiful. Since then, I can't get to my house. Is there a way of redirecting how the parents drop off the children? And I don't know if this is a you question or if this is something
not-
district.
This would be the school.
Okay, well then they're gonna hear from me.
Okay, go for it.
Sorry, we couldn't help you.
But you did. They're just not gonna be happy.
Is anyone else in the audience here in the room?
Anyone
Wanting
on
to
Zoom
make a
meeting?
comment?
Okay, if not, is there any? I'm sorry, is there anyone on Zoom?
Not putting your hands up or unmuting that I can see for audience comments. See, Dr. Pace is on.
Okay.
I have one question on your budget.
So not- You can ask us after the meeting and.
Just curious.
Okay. All right, as seeing no further audience comments, we will end the audience comment period and move forward with our contractors report. Benchmark is currently our landscaping contractor. If you need, please, yes. Do you have anything to report? We've gotten some very good comments from our residents.
That's good.
As you're getting moved into the community.
Jacob Moots with Benchmark. Michael, Benchmark. So been here for 23 days. I covered quite a few things. As of next week, we've got maintenance figured out as far as what section will be on what day. You'll have a map for that next week. Pest control and fertilization was done 2 days ago, finished today. And our irrigation inspection, although extremely lengthy one, is almost complete. It will be complete by the 28th.
Just
So
be careful, you're putting,
Yes,
you may
ma'am.
open it onto the microphone.
this is the first 19 clocks with all the heads, all the breakages, all those things found on the first 19 clocks, and you have 9 more after that.
Okay.
So,
Our irrigation system's in bad.
yes, ma'am.
That
Yeah,
what I'm hearing?
yes, ma'am. It does not operate via the Maxicom, nor can it without a significant budget to actually get the timers to communicate with the computer. They're out of date, they're not wired, things like that. So we're working on it. There is, step one is to get a closed system though. So to manage the meters, to manage the consumption, we have to be able to turn zones on and not have 8 broken heads, 3 or 4 lateral leaks and things like that. So what I'm doing between now and the 28th is coming up with an estimate to get you a closed system. That's not a fix all, that's to get closed to see what else happens. Regain pressure, one satellite at a time. So that's what we're working on now.
Yeah, we've seen you all out trimming hedges that haven't seen the hedge trimmer in years.
Yeah,
It's
Probably
nice.
about 250 cubic yards of material
Mhm.
has left the property in 23 days.
Your irrigation, if I mentioned, you said done by the 28th
Yes, ma'am.
of this month.
Yes, ma'am.
The first 19 are done.
Okay.
The last 9 were actually completed yesterday evening. Just had no time to actually kill half a tree and print it.
All righty. Now there was a problem, I think it's been cleared up.
Okay.
There was some leaf blowing and they were blowing them back, the leaves from the street back into
Sure.
the grassed areas. I noticed that this week they were blowing them into piles in front of each tree and then
Exactly.
scooping them
Yep.
up and taking them.
Yeah, so right now, up until April, we remove leaves every other week.
Okay,
So the only question is on those every other weeks, what would you like me to do with the leaves in the road? So normally we get them out of the road, we get them out of the ditch. So if a rainfall event happens, it doesn't end up in your stormwater system,
right.
contributing to the lakes. So it's pretty standard for us to try to clear the flow line of water.
Mhm.
If you don't want us to do that, you just have to let us know.
So every other week, it would be necessary for you to blow them up into the
Pile.
grass. Is that gonna damage the grass at all? For a week's time?
No,
Now, when you come back and blow it the following week, you're actually blowing the stuff, not just off the sidewalks and the streets into the piles, but also out of.
out of the
your-
median. Mhm.
Okay,
Correct.
And that's only through April.
It's only through April.
Contractually, yes.
Now, what we've done is we've made a couple calls to some friends, street sweeping companies.
Mhm.
To where as a CDD, maybe we can contact HOAs, townhome developments and things like that. And come up with some type of plan for those off weeks. And then I'll just hand it over and say, this is what they could do for you.
okay.
So that would help.
I think there are a lot of people who are raking their leaves into the street,
Well, that's,
thinking that
Well,
they're gonna
that's
get
what the-
picked up.
and that's what they're correct. And I think they're assuming at some point they're gonna get picked up. At the end of a windy day, go by, they all end up on the hill side anyway. So,
I was here 2 weeks ago and our guys were working on a street blowing and bagging in a resident, like 10 houses down, was blowing it back out onto the street.
So that's a constant little battle there.
Great.
Yeah.
So, but
So if all the residents out there can hear me,
you're right.
please bag your leaves and dispose of them appropriately.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm sorry.
You can do it when they're, after they're, yeah,
Afterward.
privately between,
You
Yeah.
can grab me and I'm happy to hear it.
Wonderful. Any other questions from any board members?
not at this time.
Okay.
But I have seen, yeah, I mean, I was like, they're blowing the leaves in the street back onto the grass. What's up with that? Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think some,
This is a good-
yes, yeah, thank you.
Makes sense.
Compliments though.
Well, I appreciate
Yes,
it.
We have a
They-
lot of
they are-
comments on Facebook.
They're working hard. They're working hard for you. So
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
When is the next board meeting?
Last Thursday in March. It's the same date would be
The end of
Thursday,
February.
March.
Report's complete. Until then, we're gonna need feedback or guidance on what to do with the irrigation from that point till your next board meeting. Because it's inoperable.
Okay,
So like the next FERC treatment cannot happen.
right.
yes. Our staff, our procurement policy allows them some leeway as far as to authorize some
So
work
in-
to do.
Okay.
So, yeah, they'll be
Alright.
able to. look
Is
at
it gonna
that.
be like, are you projecting it to be substantially high?
Your irrigation
Yeah.
system
Oh, yeah.
does not, period.
So to get a closed system for me to tell
We
you,
can't even tell you what it truly is without closing the system.
so in order to close the system based off of this, you're looking at 2 weeks, 2 guys every day,
And so what's your ballpark?
25,000.
Yeah, we
Just
don't
to
have, they
tell
don't have
you.
that kind of leeway.
To tell you.
No, they definitely
That-
don't have that.
So there's zones in here and it's horribly boring to read. But there's zones in here to where there's so many breakages I have to fix in order to figure out what's next, because there's no pressure enough to actually run the end of the zone. So that's why there's.
Yeah.
There's a range.
Your clocks are out of date. All of your clocks should not be used currently.
So would the board like to, if they can't wait till next, we don't want vegetation running, obviously.
Correct. And there's a handful of areas that currently we found out are manually watered. Not from any clock. So there's certain things like that that we're gonna have to really dive into. But we'll need guidance. Hey, do we want Harmony to be a maxi-com system, which like it should be? Do we want a hybrid? So there's gonna be 3 different levels,
Okay.
really.
So at our
But
next
initially,
meeting, you'll bring back that plan. But right now you need authorization to be able to close.
they're both, yes,
We can tell you from what we can physically see, touch and going around and look at, here's what we're seeing. And there's pictures with every item that we've sent. So I don't know if everyone's reviewed that or not.
Nobody, I haven't been sent it, I don't think.
there'll be a bunch of links.
There are links.
It's,
It was all YouTube.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm saying it's horribly boring, and I apologize for that, but
So, for us to give you an exact, this is exactly what it is and the exact amount. We are gonna have to have available budget to go in and fix, because think about this, there's a water line shoots, right? It comes up out of heads. Well, their water pressure is not sufficient enough to see heads 5, 6,
I
7,
understand.
8.
so that's.
So
that's-
we don't
that's
know
what
if
it's like.
6, 7, and 8 even work or not, or they do. There's just not pressure, so we have to fix the pressure to see.
What's going on.
And we've been paying exorbitant water bills. And I'm hoping that this money well spent will save money on the other side of the proper usage of the water.
Correct, and then you have something to gauge. Let's say you have a high water consumption compared to what? So if you're comparing to a closed system, closed month, and we're running it twice a week at 30 minutes a zone, and we know they're 3-gallon heads. We know if it's gonna be high.
Right.
Right now, you're guessing
Yeah, we're getting asked to give a read and it's like compared to what?
compared to what, unfortunately.
Because your
30.
system doesn't work.
That's our,
Are you talking through all of Harmony?
The entire system does not work.
Why are our water bills so high?
no, you're running water. You just can't control it.
Not getting the right place.
You cannot control it. Yeah, it's just, you can't control it.
Like you're-
Some of these zones are huge too, by the way. I mean, you've got 53,000 gallons being used. You very rightly probably do have 53 gallons being used.
Mhm.
Because they're that big. You just want to know. that.
So R and M irrigation, our year-to-date budget is $10,000. We spent 5,700 as of the current financial statement that we're going to be approving tonight. We've got a $30,000 budget. Obviously, it's not going to be anywhere near enough, but we still have $25,000 in that R and M irrigation budget as it stands.
I would just ask the board to authorize it not to exceed and to work, between staff and the chair in between the next meeting so they can get stuff going. Because we don't want vegetation to die. We're not in the rainy season quite yet.
And we'll do it quite intelligently. We're gonna pick the St. Augustine areas first. We're gonna pick your main drive. We're gonna pick parks, things we want to control ants in. Stuff like that. So we'll have a path. We don't want to do half a satellite. We're gonna complete an entire one.
And Brett sent all that information to you all on the 16th.
And just to piggyback off her comments, why we were pushing this is because you don't want us to wait until March 28th to then tell you, well, you need to spend 25 grand for us to tell you again
Yes.
what it is. And then now you're in the hot seat.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so at this point in time, I would entertain a motion.
Well, before we do that, can I ask Brett?
Yes.
Your thoughts on the matter and spending $20,000 to find out what we've got?
No, I don't think there's a question. I think in order for this system, so there's twofold to this, right? So in the contract, we have irrigation repairs built in after the initial audit. So if there's no repairs made or you don't move forward with their report, then they can't accept the irrigation system and cover the maintenance of it ongoing. That being said, we are in discussion with the prior vendor about money being withheld, which hopefully can help offset some of these costs moving forward
Do
as
we have
well.
a guesstimate of what that number might be?
Today, no, their final bill is 40,000 and change for January, and I have not paid any of that. Which we're gonna get to here in a few minutes and ask the board for some permissions to be able to rectify that and withhold a good amount of that, but we do have to release some, so we're gonna get to that in a second, and your chair will ask for some authorizations for that.
But to also piggyback on that comment, I don't think it's prudent to go ask another vendor to do the same thing that they're doing. The time, energy and effort alone to have another vendor come out and like to do compare pricing in a sense.
We don't wanna do that anyway. You wanna work with.
No, I'm just,
That's not what I was
I
suggesting.
didn't know if there was a thought going through
No,
anyone's
that
head,
was-
so I was just making sure I was trying to get that one.
We did
checked
that
off.
when we selected them as our. company.
Understood.
Right.
So,
I think it's actually very important to note that. And I'm just saying this to put it on the table, at the end of the month, we are not responsible for irrigation. If the repairs are not made.
Hmm.
Like there's nothing we can do, your system does not work. So the trickle down effect is your annuals, we would tell you don't plant them. Your sod is gonna die, your fur is useless.
So
So,
water it in.
correct, there's such a trickle down effect with that. So to Brett's point, you will have essentially another binder full of a report by the end of the month. Sharing with you, and you want that as complete as possible. So you have all the facts and figures in front of you and no one's guessing on anything. Which is why we would very much appreciate a budget to actually fix what we can to figure out the entire scope.
Can I ask one question, please? Is this normal wear and tear and age of the system? Or? Did it all go bad at once or has it?
We can only tell you what's happened since we've been here.
Mhm.
I'm not making a comment on anything prior to us being here. It is abnormal. The current condition of none of your clocks are current. Your clocks are out of date. You should not have those clocks. You are not Maxicom, sir. You are not a Maxicom system. You may be in theory, but it does not work.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
from the day we've been here, that's what I can do.
Yeah, no.
Previously, I have no
I
idea.
just didn't know if they have like, a 20-year life expectancy and.
Well, I would ask for a reserve study. Sometimes they do
Yeah.
15 years, they replace all the timers. I don't know how this is set up.
I think it's a combination of things. For a long time, we had people who were not really trained in irrigation, handling the irrigation system. Then we brought folks in that we thought were trained in irrigation, but I don't think that they were prepared to do the deep dive that Benchmark has now done. And you can see that again in our water bills. Our water bills are one of the highest costs that we have.
Right.
So if we are able to properly manage that water consumption in such a way to bring those bills down, the work that is done will pay for itself.
Pay for itself, right, okay.
So I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve $20,000 for the audit, not to exceed $20,000 for the audit.
For the repairs to close the system.
second.
Okay, I have a motion in a second. Did you say 20,000?
That's what the initial
Did you say?
number.
25.
25?
I thought I heard 21st, and then later I heard 25.
We said 25.
Is that what you heard?
25.
Then I amend my motion. to-
We'd like it. Okay,
But-
you accept, there's a second accept that?
Yes, I'll accept.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the table for 25, not to exceed 25,000 to close the irrigation system leak for formal assessment of the system.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Appreciate it.
The only other item we have, and you guys can go.
But-
You covered what I was at, got the main.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm sorry. The other item of business, which has been brought to our attention, is the Cervelo, the separation agreement. Cervelo has submitted its last bill to us. It's again, as our district manager stated, $40,838. Some of this is, again, it's broken down, certain amount for mowing, irrigation and things. It is their standard monthly bill. However, and I think there's been some discussion and they say they realize that some will be withheld. Our attorney has advised us that the best way to end our relationship with them would be to work with them to negotiate what their final payment will be. And then enter into a separation agreement so that there's no question moving forward as far as what, we don't want to be back in a Davy tree situation. So if you all, if the board would authorize the chairman and the district manager and the attorney to work together with Cervello to come up with that separation agreement with a not to exceed of that 40,838. Then we'll get that solved and resolved and put together.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's all part of the negotiation that needs to happen, so I don't know why we need to.
Okay.
That seems like the right number, so I will, so move.
Okay, I'll second. The motion in the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. So we will get on that and get that resolved. All right, the next item on our agenda is new business. And the first item under new business is discussion of growth in Harmony in East St. Cloud. This is an item that was requested by the school board. We have Dr. Deborah Pace. Is she with us today?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Oh, wonderful, Dr. Pace. We'll turn this over to you to explain to us what the growth problems are causing for the school district here in Harmony.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Chairman Kramer, for allowing us this opportunity to come before the board and speak. We are at a place where we are looking at having to add 7 of the cottages, again, to help us accommodate the very rapid growth in student enrollment at Harmony Community School. In our agreement, it indicates that the board could consider moving forward with that, but of course I wanted to talk with all of you about it first, as long as we have a plan to correct the problem so that it's not a permanent addition to our Harmony Community School campus. We are currently in construction. We just broke ground in the last 2 weeks on a new K-8 school in the Sunbridge community off of Cyril's Drive. That community will actually have eventually 3 dedicated K-8 school sites as a part of their development plan. In addition, we're in planning and doing initial design work for another K-8 school for relief to the Harmony and Narcoossee Elementary School and Community School populations, which will be very close to where Hickory Tree is today. It's a community called Roan Bridge. Sunbridge is scheduled to open in 24-25 in the upcoming year, not 23-24, but 24-25. And then Roan Bridge would follow in 25-26. And following that 2-year period, we believe we would be in a position to remove the cottages and return Harmony Community to a more manageable size. I shared some numbers of projected growth with Chair Kramer, which I think she has sent out to the board. I apologize that I cannot be with you in person tonight. It would be easier perhaps to show the documents then and explain any questions that you, or answer any questions that you might have. But our Gateway Panther girls basketball team for the first time ever qualified for state level runoff play in Lakeland. And I am on my way back from that event. Unfortunately, they were not successful. Mainland was quite a match, but I appreciate the opportunity to have been able to go and support our Panther team while at the same time honoring our commitment to come and share this information with you and answer any questions that you have. I believe I also have our vice chair of the school board, Mrs. Booth, who is going to join remotely via Zoom. And I think Commissioner Booth may be listening in as well, if any members of the board have questions they would like to ask.
Yes, Dr. Pace, this is Erica Booth. I am here, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight.
I've got the table that you sent us, Dr. Pace. I've got on display in the room here. It was emailed out to the board members. I can try to share it onto the Zoom meeting here. So, but I think the easier thing would be to post that on the website along with our minutes follow up, rather than sometimes our Zoom connection is has issues. So I think it'd be better. I have it on screen here so we can go over that. We can all see the projections and everything. So
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions or discussion with Dr. Pace?
I do. It appears that based on this table, that it will take a minimum of 5 years with portable classrooms in order to resolve this issue.
We
Is that
believe
correct?
that we'll be able to resolve the issue with the opening of Roan Bridge after the 25-26 year. We will still be at maximum capacity, but we believe we would be able to manage the enrollment without the need for portables after we open the 2 K-8s on this side of the county.
My big concern is with the county commissioners not providing the school district with enough funding and planning to be able to keep up with the residential development that they keep on approving. So now please just let me finish. And now
Sure.
it's already an issue, as one resident attested to, and I know that Joe has mentioned it in the past, and I know that I leave my house to go somewhere at the times when school is either getting into session or coming out of session, and it's a nightmare already. With another 20 or 30% or 60 or 70%, with the portables, that's going to be even that much more of a nightmare. So I know you're in a stuck place, and I empathize with that. And at the same time, I empathize with the people who elected us as a board, who want to have a community where traffic isn't an issue for an hour or two for at least 2 hours every single day, while people are dropping off and picking up their kids. That's my concern.
Yes, ma'am. I certainly understand your concern. The county commission does not share specific funding with the school board. Funding for our capital projects, our facilities, particularly new student stations, comes from the collection of impact fees based on the growth of housing in the community. Last year, we collected $90 million in impact fees. And we have done our part. We collect almost the highest impact fees, if not the highest in the state, on residential development. Unfortunately, the way the state manages capital funding for school districts, we're almost in a position where you have to be behind the need. You must demonstrate specific need for a new school before you can use taxpayer dollars to build it, even when those taxpayer dollars, or in this case, impact fees, are generated on a local level. We don't anticipate adding any more residential zone or property to the current Harmony Community Zone with the addition of these portables. Currently, we have 7 classrooms at Harmony Community where we're having to do what we call a co-teach situation. So 2 certified classroom teachers are teaching in one classroom. And sometimes that's a good thing. It allows teachers to capitalize on each other's strengths and each other's content knowledge and care for the 2 classes of students in that one space. But it's not really because of choice in this case. It's because we simply have no more classrooms to use. Our planning team has walked the building. We've done space reconfigurations so that we are maximizing the physical space that's available currently at Harmony Community for the student population, but without the capacity to add the additional 7 portables, we would be looking at probably 14 co-teach situations in the upcoming year to deal with the growth in enrollment that's coming in. And right now, as new students move in, our school district has no choice. We can't turn them away. We are, a public school. We're committed to serving all children who come our way, and we do it to our best ability. But we have to meet the needs as this growth is occurring. And I certainly understand your frustration. I live on Canoe Creek Road, and we're working hard with the county, with the local city governments to get in front of development and get the traffic infrastructure built. As developments go through the planning process, our school district does have an opportunity to review those plans And if a development is going to add the need for another school, then we work with the developer to do what we call a mitigation agreement. So that within their development plan, they are actually setting aside a site. They don't give it to the school district. We purchase it at market value down when we need it. And typically that is then handled through impact fee credits. But that's kind of the rock and the hard place that we're in right now. Some of you may remember several years ago when the Harmony community was also bursting at the seams. It was in the K-8 environment. We came to the board, we went to the community in a town hall and asked for that same provision. Could we add some cottages on a 2-year temporary basis while we had the new middle school in planning and design and construction? And as soon as we opened the middle school, we were able to pull those portables out. But the infrastructure is there in terms of electrical wiring, plumbing, those types of things that are needed. So that's why we're coming to you now.
One comment I have, looking at the table we were sent, it looks like it has, just a transposing error. It looks like it has the same data for the functional capacity and utilization with and without the relocatable. So I don't know that this table is really showing what the full impact would be with versus without the 7 additional units.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you for catching that. I will have our planning director, Rhonda Blake, examine this again, and I will send a new copy to Ms. Kramer.
That's great. Yeah, the school crowding, I had my two grandchildren are in the Harmony Community School, and they are basically stacked on top of each other. It's the crowding is a very serious issue right now, and I regret that the state of Florida did not keep their concurrency requirements to require schools to be built prior to overcrowding. Unfortunately, that's a reality that they rolled that back, and we don't have that ability now. So we're in a situation again where the state requires them to be over capacity to build new schools. So I don't know what else we can do. I don't know. Is there something, Dr. Pace, that you're looking for from?
No, ma'am. I just wanted to come and share this information with you first. I felt like that was important to communicate with the board up front so that you're not caught off guard. And then we will schedule a follow-up town hall at Harmony Community in a couple of weeks in order to be able to address the larger community about this need.
Okay, that's wonderful. And just keep us posted on that. And we'll provide Erin, but the mitigation plan does provide for a limited use of what we call the portables or cottages. But it's limited to a certain amount of time within a 5-year period. But it sounds like you're trying to do the best you can with what you have. So any other questions from the board?
Yes, I'd like to know what the plan is to mitigate traffic, because we're talking here about an additional 50% of students at the school, which is significant.
I will have our safety director go out again to check the arrival times and departure times at Harmony Community. I know we've done some work with redesigning traffic flow, but I will ask him to do that next week so that we can look at is there a better way for us to move traffic off the streets. And one of the things that we always like to encourage our folks to do is, particularly those who live in the community, we encourage you to let your children walk. It's a safe environment. It's good for their health. And that was the way the school was designed, to try to minimize the drop off and pick up. You will see the choice leaving and choice receiving numbers on that chart. We have stopped allowing any new students in for choice applications at Harmony Community, other than for staff members. That is a benefit that the school board provides for staff at the school to have their children go to school with them if they're elementary age. But we will have to phase out choice because under the Florida statute, once a student is accepted for choice, they're guaranteed that seat through the grade band of the school. So if they enter Harmony as a choice student in kindergarten, they're guaranteed a seat through 5th grade. But those numbers are starting to dwindle because, as you said, for the last couple of years, we've not been providing additional choice opportunities as much as everybody loves Harmony Community and would like to send their children there.
One last question. There had been talk a couple of years ago about expanding the school building itself rather than just portables. And what's the plan on that, please?
We don't currently have a wing addition planned for the Harmony Community School. I can certainly talk to my facilities team about looking what is possible there. That we don't really like for our elementary schools to grow beyond the 900,000 student range. We really feel like that K-5 environment is VPK to 5 thrives when you can keep it relatively small. And when you do add that additional space, you also have to look at the size of things like the cafeteria, the media center, even the clinic, in order to make sure that we're meeting code and able to serve the students for that additional space. But I'll certainly take that request back to our facilities team to look at.
Yeah, it was mentioned several years ago as a plan for when we hit a certain number of students. And I'm sure based on this table that we've hit that number of students. And as you just said, you want to keep the number at 800 or 900, but that sounds like a long-term plan, and the shorter term plan in the next 5 years and probably 6, 7, 8 years, because there's always delays in construction. We're talking about having 1,500 students at the school, not immediately, but growing over the next 3 or 4 years to 1,500 students. So
each of the K-8s that we're opening will serve about 1,400, 1,450 is our K-8 usual capacity, our seats for K-8. So they'll be a little bit larger, but I will certainly, again, take that back. I was not aware that that had ever been considered.
The portables, you mentioned that the hookups are there and everything ready for them. Are these, will these have restrooms in the portable units themselves, the classroom?
If I remember correctly, when we added the portables previously, we included a restroom portable. I will look at that again with the facilities team in the morning to see.
Okay.
We typically would move our older students, so I would anticipate that you would see 5th graders. We keep our little ones closer to the office.
Mm-hmm. And so along those lines, with the information you bring to that town hall, I think it'd be helpful to show a comparison when we had the 7 units there, when it was K-8, what, I understand the density is different and everything, but that would be a good point of reference of what that those capacity numbers were versus with it full VPK to 5. Is that going to be slightly higher? So just so that'd be a good comparison point to also include in the town hall, since we had portables not too long ago.
Yes, sir. I will take that information back to the team and make sure we include it.
All right. Any further questions?
If there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and sign off and drive home.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry it didn't work out for the girls, but I'm glad they got the opportunity to go to the finals.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mrs. Booth, for being a part of the conversation as well.
Yes, and if any questions, I'm here and happy to come out and take a look and join. I'd love to join one of your meetings in person. And thank you for allowing us the opportunity to join via Zoom again. And thank you for vital and for your partnership.
Thank you.
Drive safe.
Right. The next item on the agenda is the school district again. We have a request to, again, as we have in the past, allow the school board to use our pool, swim club pool for the Learn to Swim program. It'll be an 8-day program over 2 weeks. They'll run it Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays over a 2-week period in April from the 10th to the 21st. Do I have any?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
I just want to make couple of comments. So the pool will be closed from 9 to noon on those days. And in the past, the board has waived the deposit fee, as long as you're still on board with that.
The only other thing is the application, I believe, does not mention that there will not be on weekends.
Yes,
So,
to amend, they said with the, it gives the bracket dates, but it says with the exception of Wednesday, but it should say with the exception of Wednesday, Saturdays, Sundays.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I sent an email yesterday with that.
so did we have a second?
Yeah, those.
Yeah, I just have one comment.
Sure.
So you have an indemnification, a whole harmless agreement in here. It's between you and the event organizer. But what I haven't seen is the release that they asked the participants to sign.
Great,
And I'd like to see that release that they asked the participants to sign, because there's specific boldface language that's required in Florida when you're waiving the rights dealing with a minor. So if it could be subject to me reviewing that release and making sure the district is covered with the actual participant, I would suggest that.
I'll send an email out to Matt Murphy requesting the release that he wants the students to sign.
Do you want to revive?
Allowing for that and allowing for the scheduling updates, I move to approve.
Second,
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the proposed use of our swim club pool from
And waiving the fees, sorry.
April 10th to April 21st, waiving the deposit. They're a governmental entity, so there would be no fees. And provided that our attorney signs off on the release form for the students. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, they said 9 to 12, but I think the application said 9 to 2, did it not?
Yeah, that's 9 to do.
It says 9 to 2 on the week.
It does say, yeah, in the information I have, it's 9 to 2.
Oh, I'm looking at the actual form
Okay,
and it says excluding Wednesdays times from 9 a.m. to noon.
okay.
And I'll get Saturdays and Sundays added to that.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of the different applicants to fill a vacant seat number 4 on the Harmony CDD board. We have a number of applicants. In fact, I think at this point now, Mr. Brady Evans did withdraw his application. So we have 7 before us at this time. And yes, 2 of them are on Zoom. So let me just see who's here with us. And guys, you gotta help me with some of the names. Lucas, are you here?
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Joe Davis. Good evening. Fred Meek.
Present.
Oh. Not on Zoom. Jacqueline Meek.
I'm here as well on Zoom.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jacqueline. Kevin Shirley.
I'm also here on Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Michael Scalio, thank you. And Violetta, thank you so much. All right, so we have before us 7 individuals, residents. Have they all been?
Yes.
So they all are registered voters within the Harmony CDD. Okay. And that is the requirement for through the statutes for this position. So at this time, the board, would you all like to ask some questions? I know I have a few questions of the members. So if someone wants, who would like to go first? And
Well, what's our process going to be? I mean, we, obviously we can't talk in between meetings to decide what our process is. Go ahead, Angel.
The way we've typically done it, and Mike may have some thoughts on it as well. I would just go one applicant at a time, have them come sit here and go around and everybody ask their questions and then let them move on and get the next applicant. And then that way you can just kind of, then it goes back to the board for discussion and then you can make a decision.
So
Okay.
should we go in order of the agenda?
I think that would be the easiest. It was alphabetical order is the way they put it. So Lucas, step forward, name and address for the record.
Hello, my name's Lucas Chocanis. I'm at 3413 Middlebrook Place. I've been here since 2013.
And we do have his application. I think all the board members have had a chance and it is posted online in the agenda package. So we just go around. Dan, would you have any questions for?
Yeah, so electrical engineer from UCF as well. I guess my question is with as your day job, are you more like the project engineering side? What is?
Electrical technology wise, I do a lot of data analysis. We solve very complex problems. I work for Lockheed Martin. I've been there for 3 years now. Previously, I worked at L3 Harris over in Melbourne, Palm Bay, defense contractors. So yeah, I do a lot of the technical complex problems.
Okay. Favorite amenity?
Here in Harmony, the golf course. Definitely.
I thought you was gonna say the bike.
You got your turn. You got your turn.
That was recruiting. Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Joe, do you have any questions?
I'm sure I do, but I really appreciate you applying and showing interest in the community. I read your resume and I'm pretty impressed.
Thank you.
I guess the one thing I want to ask is there something you want to do different than we're already doing?
Not necessarily. I think I just want to have an impact more. I've been here for 10 years now and I want to have a voice in what happens going forward. I have 2 little children, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. So I don't. Yep. Yeah. I know about the traffic. So but no, I enjoy the community and I just rather have an impact and do some good things for the community.
Okay, very good, thank you.
All right.
As always, I'm gonna have lots of questions.
Sorry.
That's okay. So have you had any experience on boards before?
Yes. Throughout my 10 years of engineering, we have various review boards. Some of them are called failure review boards where we have a complex problem that doesn't go the way we thought, right? And so we all sit down and really dig into the details of what went wrong and how do we fix it? How do we improve things? It's very a standard practice in engineering of messing up. How do we do it better? And it's a repetitive kind of trial and error process. So I've sat on various review boards and sat with very senior people and learned a lot from them. So.
Okay. Tell me if you have gone through at least one full agenda package in detail so far?
Here?
Harmony CDD agenda package, like today's agenda package?
Yes.
Gone through the whole thing?
Yes.
Read how many pages?
Yes.
One?
I read emails. I have thousands of emails a day. I read a lot. I also, I don't know if you read my resume. I brought to the CDD board a petition to get a playground built for our street Middlebrook, and it was approved for 25,000.
So is this what you sent? Is that the totality? Because you said you sent a resume, but these are just some answers to questions. I just because I didn't get a resume. That's the only.
That was from Facebook, I believe. Or no, that's the email I sent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So there wasn't actually a resume.
That was what the application said. So I have a formal resume I can send you. What my engineering background.
And tell me about your financial background, like your financial knowledge, like what kind of experience you have in studying and spending money and receiving money from a business perspective.
So we have these things called control account managers in engineering. They're called CAMs. I've managed over $1 million for IRADs before, managing different functions, maintaining each weekly status, making sure people are doing their jobs, making sure they're not overrunning on too many tasks. So yeah, I've done a multitude of those. The $1 million IRAD was one of the biggest ones that I've managed though.
And my last question, because I don't want to take all night with this, is what would you do differently than this board has done recently?
Add some diversity.
So can you say more about that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a young person in there would add a little pizzazz to it.
We can have a young person.
Maybe another male would add another a little diversity. So just my 2 cents there.
Until the last election, there were 4 males and 1 female.
Yeah.
So
And it was that way for many years.
And you definitely would be replacing a young male, so.
we got to-
That's-
And Dan is not, Dan's.
He's not an old man. All right. Any other questions?
Not for me.
Can I back up and ask one more?
Sure.
Did you think about running before this? Because there were 2 seats open in November and nobody ran for them, other than Dane and I.
I thought about it for a while. Life's been busy and stuff, but I noticed when Jacqueline posted on Facebook, there's only 2 people running. I thought, well, might as well jump in now. Nobody's participating, and then here goes 8 people. So,
Pleasant surprise to have so many.
but
people.
I'm glad I did it, and wouldn't change anything.
You're not reneging on your.
No, I'm not pulling out like that guy.
Okay, you mentioned you served on some review boards. Were those standing boards, or were they boards that were appointed as an incident came up to?
Usually, depending on your seniority, you get put on review boards for complex problems, like they call us SMEs, subject matter experts, right? So, depending on what happens, those review boards get combined into teams, and then those teams review certain complex problems. There's always a lot of meetings that I'm always in that we discuss problems and how to go about things. Those are daily tasks, but the review boards are really focused on a certain aspect of what we're working on and how to solve a big problem.
Any governmental experience? Familiar with the sunshine laws?
I'm a voter.
That's important.
Not too much, to be honest. No.
So this will be a first for you. And
Yeah, as a government position. Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
We are required by state law to do a financial disclosure and to disclose investments and other financial information, and it's mandated by the state of Florida, and it's kept in their and it is part of the public record. Would you have any problem?
I don't.
If I could just add to that, it's a disclosure of sources, not amount.
Not a matter.
Gotcha. Just financial investments, is that?
Right.
Okay.
Right. What they're looking for is conflict
Right.
of interest, things that might come up if you're making some decisions on something that might affect.
Right, like insider trading or something.
That's it. Yeah, slowly officials have to deal with it. The higher ones don't. So.
They're the ones making all the money.
What if you said you wanted to commit? Is there any special thing you want to accomplish if you're a member of the board?
Nothing in particular. I know I'm gonna be here for a while. I don't see myself moving, so I want to get involved and make things better. I think things used to be a lot better when I first came in, and I think they're kind of on the downslope, which I think happens, but I want to make an impact and serve my community.
Wonderful.
I do have one
Yes.
last question. That is, what percentage of the meetings do you think you would be able to attend in person?
Are they once a month?
Yes.
Yes.
Last Thursday of the month, except for November and December, when they're the third Thursday, second.
And they're at 6 p.m. usually?
Yeah.
With a couple of workshops through the
Yeah.
year. There's a budget one once a year. They'll be like before the meeting at 3, and then maybe 1 or 2 other workshops that'll.
I'd say 95%.
Okay, and they're typically 2 to 3 hours
That's okay.
a meeting.
And that is the previous board member that had to step down again was a young gentleman like yourself. And he said that the problem was he estimated the time he would need to spend on the board work was between 6 and 8 hours a day.
Mhm.
I mean, not a day, I'm sorry, a month.
Okay.
6 to 8 hours a month.
Okay.
But he found that it was much more than that to really do the job properly, because you have to, sometimes the agenda requires you to go out and look at certain things throughout the community and to evaluate them, things like that. And he said he wasn't able to commit the amount of time it took. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, so that.
No, I understand. My job is very flexible. I work from home sometimes and I work on campus at some time, so I'm able to kind of make it flexible around but I'm usually done with work by 5 PM and usually home with plenty of time, so.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Watch that ahead. All right, Mr. Davis.
Well, and hold on, so do we want everyone to stick around? I mean, like, do we want to, are we seating the person tonight to continue or?
If you have a viable candidate, tonight, then yes, I would suggest to the board that you fill that vacant seat, unless for some reason you don't have a viable candidate at the end. Then obviously you can leave it open, but.
Okay,
Yes.
and I meant that, I mean, if you need to go,
If
obviously.
you need to go, yeah, but if you like to stay, then if you're selected. Sorry, I didn't know he was saying the door.
Watch your head.
I got you. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay. good evening now.
Joe Davis, 3415, but wait.
Excuse
Still
me,
gonna give
sir.
my ID number.
Sir. We're in the middle of the meeting, so if you could contact her. Wonderful. Thank you. That would be fine. No. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
When crosstalk happens, then our recording secretary can't get information properly. So if you
Understand.
can repeat what you said.
That's fine. Joe Davis, I live at 3415 Feathergrass Court. Been here about 5 years. 2018, we moved down.
Wonderful. Nice to have you, and I'm glad you applied for the position. We'll go through the same. We'll start with Dan.
Yep, again, just looking at your resume, going over logistics repairs, for equipment. Question, have you in your time living here I'm not sure how much you've, kept track of how the CDD has, operated, equipment maintenance and everything. Is there anything that stands out that you in your professional capacity think should have been done differently or?
So let me start with, I didn't realize Lucas was in similar industry that I am, aviation. So some of my answers may be similar to his as far as boards that I've been on, things like that.
Mhm.
Yes, I have watched a lot of the maintenance costs, things like that, and wondered how I would do them differently had I been in an impactful role. I know there was a large debate over doing it in-house versus sending it out. There becomes some control issues and some financial issues with both decisions, right? So I don't think that you get 100% the right answer either way you go with it. There's always going to be challenges. And so, yes, I have sat back and kind of looked at some of the maintenance cost and controls as far as units out of service, vehicles out of service, some of the units that they use to service the community. So I have looked at that.
Okay, and again, favorite amenity?
My favorite amenity is the hiking trails. I like to walk, so.
And that's it for now.
Okay, Jeff.
Well, thank you for putting yourself forward for this. It's been just mind blowing to me that so many of you are willing to do this. And it's very difficult for me to ask questions because I'm not sure that I have anything meaningful to ask because you covered everything and I'll listen to the other.
Okay.
What did I ask? I asked Joe Lucas something. Did I ask him? Oh, okay, I'll do this. In November, there were 2 openings and nobody ran for office other than the 2 of us who were already in the seats.
Yep.
And is there a reason you didn't run then and you're running now?
There is. So I do travel a lot for work.
Mhm.
The liberty that I have is if I know something's coming, I can work around it most of the time. But I generally travel 2 to 3 weeks of the month for customer visits. As far as you can go in Canada, as far as south as you can go in South America, depending on the week. Again, knowing if my kid's got a football game or a basketball game, I'm pretty much scheduling my work trips around that so I can be here for the family. So I've wanted to run for the board a couple times. My plan was to run the next cycle. This just kind of allotted the opportunity a little sooner, so.
Alright. Oh, and is there something you do differently than those of us on the board have been doing?
So that's a difficult question. I think to say that I would do it differently, I would have to understand all of the things that lead you to your decisions before I can make that decision.
Have you been to meetings and or listened to the minutes?
I've watched
before?
on Zoom a couple different meetings. I've not attended one in person, and no, I've not read 170 pages of the meeting. I have looked through a lot of the minutes in great length. I've worked with Teresa and Carl on a couple different things that we've had, such as the basketball court and installation of a pool in my backyard. So I'm familiar with how the board operates, but I would like to understand more sometimes how we get to the decisions that we make.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So you've read minutes, but it's unclear, I just want to understand. You've read the minutes, but it's unclear how we've come to the decisions?
Well, sure, the minutes are snapshots of the discussions that are taking place, right? So, yeah, it could be verbatim, minute per minute, word for word, but understanding the thought process that got us to that decision is what I like to understand.
Okay. So you said you haven't read the 171 pages this month. Sometimes it's 200 or 300 pages.
Didn't read that one either.
But you would be, it would be a responsibility to read that. So plus, as Teresa said, Mr. Short understood that it was about 68 hours a month of his time to devote. And in addition to that, those 6 to 8 hours are largely in 1 week, right? It's between the time we get the minutes to review and then the agenda and the meeting.
Sure.
So it's typically about a week and a half that you have to spend all of that time. So I'm wondering if that's feasible for you, and also considering that you're, very fairly prioritizing your family in terms of your travel schedule. What happens if your travel schedule, your family obligations and the meetings do not coincide, right? Because we meet on the last Thursday of the month.
Sure.
Except for November and December.
Well, I think from time to time, there's points where people cannot attend the meeting, right? Board members. If you're asking if I'm going to prioritize family over the meeting, depends on the event, right? If I'm home, that's what I mean by prioritizing my family, is I'm home versus being in some place in Nova Scotia, right? So that's the priority that I take. I realize that it takes a lot of effort to run the board, if that's kind of the question. There's a lot of work that you guys are probably doing behind the scenes that doesn't get seen. I've been the president of a board before. While it was just a bowling association, there was still about 1,500 members of the association. So it was, and the board was only about two to three people. So I only had a secretary and a director, essentially at one end. So I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it. Am I up for the task? Yes. Will there be some conflicts? There could be. There could be the meeting that I have to miss because I've got to go overseas or something like that. So I just want to make sure that you understand that out of the gate, that could potentially happen.
And what do you anticipate might be like the percentage of meetings you might miss?
I would be able to make 75% probably. Like I said, if I understand it, it's the last Thursday of the month, I can plan for that.
And your financial background.
So my financial background,
Yeah, you don't have to disclose it, but.
No.
I think she meant professionally. I think she meant professionally.
Experience during.
Yeah.
Oh, in
Yeah,
finance.
yeah. So currently I manage a company who produces ground support equipment for aviation, right? So it goes all over the world. I manage the service end of the business. So as far as you can go in North in Canada, as far as South, you go South America, but I also sell the equipment. So I'm managing about a $30 million budget a year on the service side and an additional $100 million budget a year on the sales side.
So you're familiar with accounting sheets.
Yes, until my eyes bleed.
I don't, I love it. I've got a lot of experience in a lot of things, but that's not one of my.
I didn't say I like it, but I mean, I'm familiar with it.
Well, you understand the concept.
Correct.
Right, and that's the main thing, that's critical, right? Any other question?
No, and I just want to say, I'm focusing on the financial,
Sure.
financial knowledge and experience because clearly, there's some vocal residents who are concerned about how the board is spending money. And so we want somebody who has experience. I mean, I see you're about 3/4 through your MBA. Good
Mhm.
for you.
Thank you.
I know that, some financial acumen is required to get through an MBA. And so we're certainly looking for somebody who has some financial acumen.
Sure.
I noticed you did serve on the board, for the bowling association. It sounds like a very large association.
Mhm.
And your attendance with those meetings, about what percentage of the?
I was there all the time as the president. It's hard not to be there, right? Wasn't able to skip out on many of those.
Yes. Okay. Any governmental experience?
I do not have governmental experience, so.
And would you be concerned, or would it be a problem for you to fill out the financial disclosure?
No.
Required by the state? And what do you want to accomplish?
Like I said, part of it was just understanding, and getting to the end goal. I think nobody here on the board sets out every morning to say, hey, how can I anger that individual, right? I think you're trying to pull the rope in a direction. I want to understand that direction. Your 3, 5 year, 10-year goal, what does it look like? What does Harmony look like in 10 years from now? I have a vision of what I think it looks like, but I would like to see what that is collectively and perhaps be a part of it.
And I want to thank you, for those who don't know, Joe was very helpful with the basketball court resurfacing. He was kind of a go-between between the players. He was kind of their liaison with us, and it was wonderful to have. And the court, although it's still got some issues, it does look a lot better, and it's a lot softer on the eyes when you play on it, and it gets an enormous amount of.
I think it's the #1 used commodity in the community.
It's heavily used, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
On that.
Thank you for the support.
All right, any follow-up questions? No?
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, the next candidate is Mr. Fred Meek. Would like to come forward.
Hi, guys.
Your name and address.
Fred Meek, 6848 Sundrop Street.
And we'll start with Mr. Supervisor.
We've had, correspondence on, several issues and all that. Is there something that you haven't already that in your, professional capacity that you haven't told us about already, that in your professional capacity, you think the board should have done something different or gone in a different direction?
In my professional capacity, I think, things could have been, such as, I hate to bring it up, RV lot. Things could have possibly been examined from, all angles, things, maybe outside of the box type thinking. And, we've got the splash pad. I know that is an ongoing issue, and I'd like to see that resolved. I'd like to, possibly maybe hire or at least solicit another individual or something that can actually come in that understands those types of systems, those servos and those pumps and things, just to get a second opinion, because I don't know if the different items that are supposed to function together, we don't know what's broken based on, what we've talked about. So yeah, in my professional opinion or my professional experience, there's always ways to think outside the box and maybe get some other individuals and another set of eyes on things.
Okay, and favorite method?
My favorite amenity now is still a place to store my RV, but I love all of the lakes. I go down to the docks at night, and look at the skies, take pictures of the Milky Way, as well as, I like going out on the boardwalks too. So I love it all.
Your photos show, you're wonderful.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it for now.
All right, Joe.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. Last, I've known your son for 10 years, I believe, Becca's grandmother.
Okay.
If you remember Becca, yeah,
Yep.
so, I wanted to ask you, why you didn't run in November and you're running now.
I didn't run in November. I thought it was a voted process. I was unaware that, there was only 2 individuals that were applying for that seat. And my situation back in November is a lot different than it is now.
Oh, okay, that's, yeah.
And yeah, that's
Well, I guess I'm sort of trying to figure out why so many people came forward now and didn't before. And so I don't know if there's something going on that I'm in the dark about. So if that makes any sense. So, I know the RV lot has upset you greatly. And I do feel bad about that. And I spent a lot of time laying awake at night trying to figure out another solution. But we did not make that decision lightly.
okay.
And we did what we had to do because none of us wanted to do that.
Okay.
And so I have some concerns.
It's kind of past me right now.
Okay.
I've kind of just like
All right,
left it
if
alone.
we can reopen it, we will. But I would hate to have you come on the board thinking that you're going to change that because we don't have any choice.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure you understand that because I hate when people are upset. It upsets me. So I'd like everybody to kind of get along.
Okay.
So-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got
okay.
concerns too, though. What's gonna happen once everything is closed and people are removing their RVs and stuff, their trailers, and you go right up the road 3 or 4 miles to Rockers Lockers, and they have no space. I've been on their waiting list for 3 months now.
Well,
I've got-
do come to us, because maybe we could do something about that for a temporary thing. I can't promise that, but we certainly could discuss it. But I guess the other thing is I hope if you are the one who is chosen, that you understand that the people in the community could come to you if they want to talk about something and not have it on Facebook. Because that's a private group.
I understand that. I'm not on the board. right
Okay.
now, So
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, if you did, I just want to make sure you understand that. and
I
we're on the same
understand.
page.
I understand the rules.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Well, because I was, I felt bad that you were upset. And so I just don't want you to continue to be upset. you
Okay.
know? All right,
Thank you.
yeah, all right. So,
Sometimes upset ongoing is inevitable. It's just how things are, but
yeah,
I mean, as much as we don't like that.
well, if I had room in my garage, I would like, how long is your RV? No, yeah, right, and your qualifications, your education, and we all know about your photography and that, so.
Right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, similar questions, the responsibilities of the board in terms of the commitment of time and commitment of effort. I was wondering if you read through this agenda fully. I know you've attended meetings in the past.
I drove 10 hours today to be here for this meeting.
That's impressive.
So where I thought it was originally just gonna be a Zoom call.
Yeah, no, we want.
Well, I thought I was gonna call in through Zoom.
No.
Um,
And that's
Yeah,
how
no.
he reported that he was gonna have to
Right,
call in on
yeah,
Zoom, so
I remember
was surprised
seeing
to
that.
see you here.
Yeah. And so, what percentage of meetings do you think you'd be able to attend in person?
I think I'd be able to attend unless there's a family emergency or some unforeseen circumstance. I will be here 100%.
And then, what kind of decisions might you make differently than what you've seen, obviously beyond the RV lot?
What kind of decisions would I make differently from what I've already seen? Well, I would probably look into examining, as I said before, I'm a kind of an outside the box thinker. I would take a step back, look at it from larger perspective down to a very small perspective and see, what type of solutions we have, what kind of people do we know that can help make that decision or have made, have similar experience with that and just be a sounding board off of those people to help come to a successful conclusion. Some things I think may have been, may have happened too fast and maybe, and I know that you can't get a whole lot of community involvement as far as like, for instance, the RV lot. I think first thing I heard about it was back in September, October timeframe. And then I went back and further, and like April of last year, I read some of the minutes through there and it came up back then. But like, it seemed like everything from October, November, it just happened really quick. And if we could have maybe plan for it a little bit better, some of us might still be able to use that amenity. And as I've suggested to you, maybe ask for a delay of closure from the county. I've spoken to the county, you have too, and making sure it doesn't happen all at one time or have some sort of improvement plan in place, because they're open to that. But all of a sudden, March 31st. Well, and I thank you for extending that deadline, but March 31st is the absolute drop dead deadline. And the county is, willing to delay that if we can just show some sort of effort to improving that. And I think that in itself would attract a lot more residents to use that amenity. And, we can raise funds together to improve it over X, Y, and Z years. That's what I would have done differently.
I'm going to steal one of your questions. Sorry.
That's okay.
Have you ever served on any government board or government experience?
Government experience, I work with various state and local departments of transportation. I know how the process and procedure is. I know about the cone of silence. We can't discuss certain things with them, advertisements. I know about RFPs. I've written, put together, budgets for RFPs as well as letter of interest, and pick through all of these LOIs and decided who the best candidate is. I'm very familiar with operations of different state and local governments.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, tell us about your experience with financial dealings from a business perspective.
County, well, I'm a senior project manager in several different DOT districts. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, District 5, District 3, all dealing with large budgets, large inspection budgets, large pieces of rental equipment. I know that we have to show receipts, and I know you have, X amount of dollars, and you have to balance all of those dollars against what was planned for and what's unplanned for. And you always have to have backup, as well as doing the average, hourly rates with your people and the burden rates, and including all that in the budgets. And I've always made it work, and I've never been below or outside of my threshold, over budgeted.
Thank you. Your turn.
Have you ever served on any boards?
I've written papers for different TRB, transportation research boards. I've sat on a couple of defect boards where if we go out and find something wrong with the structure, And the best case of action to fix it, based on various, experiences at different levels. I've sat on review committees, prioritizing different types of repairs and feasible work orders and I have, peer advisory committees. I have,
Are those longstanding boards or?
Yeah, probably the longest board I've sat on is about 16 years and I'm still a current member. Committee, I'm sorry, it's a committee.
They give them all different
Yeah.
names, so. As I mentioned, your predecessor was spending well in more than 6 to 8 hours a month preparing for and reviewing, and it just became difficult with his family and obligations and things. Will you be comfortable expending probably closer to 16 hours a month on board business?
Not sitting on the board, I'm probably spending about 20 to 30 hours a month discussing, reading through minutes, reading back through minutes, going back all the way to 2014, 2013 to see where things started. And I'm spending on.
Okay, and you'll be able to do that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and when I have my assistant driving me to the next location or whatever, or if I'm on a plane, it's not a problem.
So you feel like you'll be able to attend the bulk of the meetings?
Yes, as long as, I get these dates in my calendar, I'm fairly local most of the time. I don't think that will be an issue.
Okay. Yeah, I understand you do a lot.
Unless there's an
consulting
emergency, yes.
Or inspections and things throughout.
Yes,
So
I
if
don't
there's an
travel.
emergency, you don't-
I do not travel as much as I used to. So, sorry, guys.
Any trouble filling out and complying with financial disclosure laws of the state of Florida? What do you want to accomplish by serving on the board?
I kind of want to accomplish having more of a vested interest in the community. I've been here since the Green neighborhood was only 5 houses. So back 2009, 2010. And I've never had an active participation. And, I love this neighborhood, just like everyone else, sitting behind me and everyone else on Zoom. I kind of want to, I hear things and I kind of want to, I think, and I get out and I take a lot of photos all over the community and people are like, oh, you're Fred, the famous photographer. I'm like, okay, I'm hardly famous.
You're on.
But and when I sit there and talk with people, we talk about different things and if I can just have that amount of amount to bring back to the table and share, so we can, have a common effort of improving things.
Definitely. Great, thank you so much, I appreciate that. Any other follow-up questions?
Well, maybe I'll just ask you directly, because you are very knowledgeable.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of respect for you in many ways. So can you work with us? Because I read the letters that you said to the county, sent to the county,
Okay.
and they were not very complimentary, I'll just say it that way. So,
I was sharing everything that from point A to point Z, and everything in between. I know there was a CDD meeting a couple months ago where Carol actually offered to take the steering wheel and reach out to the county. And I was providing all the information to every one of you. Your response was, I find your approach very offensive.
I believe what I found offensive is when you wrote, I'm not gonna get into that now, but perhaps we had a misunderstanding. So, because I'm trying very hard to get past this. But we had all the information that Carol got, we had when we voted to close the line. We had that.
Okay.
She just re-clarified to make sure that we hadn't missed something. So, and that's where I have this concern is because I'm not sure I'm still not sure you believe us.
And that's, I've already left that behind me.
Okay, well, then you can work with us then. and come
Yeah,
forward
I will work
with a
within reason.
perspective that
Yes.
We're honest people.
Yes,
and we're just
within,
doing our best.
yes, within reason. And then we'll work together to, somehow meet in the middle. I don't always have to agree with everyone's opinion because I have my own opinion too. But yeah.
We don't always agree either, but yeah, okay, well, thank you, and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
You can answer that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
The next candidate, Jacqueline Meek, is on Zoom. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hello, this is Jacqueline Meek, 6848 Sundrop Street.
Well, welcome, and we'll go through the same order. Mr. Supervisor Lee will start the question.
Thank you again for applying. Hannah says hi. So in your same question, so in your from a teaching background, from your professional capacity, is there something that you have seen, either a decision that the board's made or how it's conducted yourselves or something that from your professional point of view could have been done differently?
Recently, what's going on with the alley paving is a concern that I see. I really feel like sometimes some projects are executed before they should be because lack of planning. It seemed as though there were lots of bits and pieces that were not maybe thought about, mentioned, or planned on. I do have an education background. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I was a lifeguard before that, so I taught swim lessons at the age of 15. And as an educator, I know that you have to think about all of the possibilities, all the options, and all the what ifs, and make sure that you dot all of your I's and cross all of your T's. And with the paving project, it seemed as though a few of those steps or ideas were possibly missing or left out. That was just the impression that I got.
Okay, very fair. And your favorite amenity?
My favorite amenity, well, we've been here since 2010. So the splash pad in the pool was a vital part of getting my kids to nap when it was nap time. And we loved being outside. Just the green space. I love every time I'm out in the green space, I'm just reminded of how much I love Harmony and what makes it so unique. And I cherish that as a resident.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Mrs. Meek. I wanted to ask, could you be more specific about what I's and T's we didn't dot across on the paving?
Well, there were a couple of residents who I guess have connections with waste management and said that it was not scheduled, as well as it looked like there was a lot of uncertainty about the postal service and where things were going to be delivered and if cars could be around the trash cans. And my issue is that the community puts a lot of trust in the CDD and the HOA to make decisions on their behalf. And they're going to trust that the money that's being spent is spent in a responsible manner. And that when a plan is going to be executed, it almost needs to be like a wedding planner type situation where you are planning every positive situation, negative, something that could happen. Then there was something about a delay of some equipment, which then made me start to think if there was going to be more cost because now the project has been delayed. So that's where I'm kind of coming from with that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then if you were a board member, you would be dealing with those type of issues?
If I knew that there was going to be paving of the alleyway, I feel like there needs to be a lot more due diligence and a lot more steps that need to go in the process of planning a major project like that. And it seems as though some of the steps were either not thought of or they were skipped. That is my perspective as a community member.
So you didn't call any of us though and ask what happened. Is that correct?
No, I did not call anyone to let them know. I mean, that's not my job, honestly. I know you guys all look at Facebook. I know, Joe, you're not on the residents forum. However, the others are, and I know that they're constantly reading it. So they saw what the community members were posting. So this isn't a surprise to anyone, maybe you, but no one else.
So you formed your opinion though, based on what you read on Facebook?
No, you are incorrect. And I'm going to correct you
Okay,
because you're
all right.
twisting my words around. Dan asked me if there was anything that is going on in the community that I would have done differently. I answered his question.
Okay.
You did. You answered it very well, Miss Meek. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
No, that sealed it for me.
You have a family, you're a school teacher, just wanted to know how you're gonna manage the time commitment for the board and what percentage of meetings you'd be able to attend in person.
So I have been spending a lot of time, probably starting back in October when the storage lot started coming to light for me, and reading minutes and going back, watching YouTube videos, which Dan, I know that I've been in touch with him asking when those were going to be uploaded so I could go back and see them. I do have a busy home life, and my teaching job is extremely important to me. So basically what I'm saying is I'm really good at time management and multitasking, and I don't see it being a problem if I was on the board and allowing that time. And if I am chosen for this vacant seat, I will be in the meeting 100% of the time.
Thank you. And then tell us about your experience managing financial stuff from a business perspective.
Well, I am a school teacher, so I don't manage the finances, but I definitely manage classroom management and students. So I do not have any financial background.
Okay. I trying to remember if there's anything else. No, I think that's pretty much it. And if there's something that I forgot, I'll just go after you.
Have you ever served on any boards, Ms. Meek?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've been on committees with my school, but not on a formal board.
Okay. Do you have any governmental experience?
Well, I do work for the school district of Osceola County. That is a government entity. So
Governmental, city, county, towns.
no, I have not.
And would you have any problem complying with the state requirements to disclose your financial information?
No, I have no problems with that.
And what do you want to accomplish by serving on the board?
So community and the residents of this community is extremely important to me. I'm going to say it again. We've been here since 2010. I am a resident. I am a teacher. I am a parent. I'm very, very vested in everything that is Harmony. So I want to see Harmony to be the best that it can be, not just now, but 10 years from now and 20 years from now, because this is our home. This is our forever home. We moved here with the intention that our kids would go to school. And honestly, the amenities, the things that are important to many residents, I see that they're just diminishing, going away, or there's lack of care. And that's very concerning to me. And that's something that I want to be a part of that solution. I'm very similar to my husband. We're both out of the box thinkers. We synergize a lot. We bounce ideas off of one another. And so I feel like even if we don't agree on everything, different perspectives are a good thing. And you might say something that I didn't think of and vice versa. And I feel the community would be able to grow if there was a more diverse board.
Okay, thank you. All right, any follow-up questions?
No.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Meek.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Our next candidate is Mr. Kevin Shirley. Are you still with us?
I am,
Wonderful.
and I apologize in advance. I thought I had my resume attached to the email I sent in, but evidently it was not.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
His resume was not, it was supposed to be attached, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay. All right. well, we'll go with what we've got and maybe you can fill us in as we move along.
Yeah, if you can.
Sure
maybe
thing.
It's like a, 30, 60 second, just a quick background summary since your resume, what I didn't get into the agenda package, please.
Sure. So I've been in federal sales for almost 20 years now. Prior to that, I was a Unix engineer for Hewlett Packard. Currently, my role is that of a global account manager for the RF sensing product line at Epic Solutions, dealing primarily with the Department of Defense and the intelligence communities.
And in that capacity, same question I've asked the others. Is there something that from your business background that you feel the board could have come to a better decision or handled it?
Yeah, absolutely. So primarily the bulk of our revenue comes in from DoD and the IC, like I stated. So intimate familiarity with the RFI, RFP, RFQ process. Also directly in charge of a $3.5 million quota, $80 million pipeline, as well as managing IRAD, developmental costs around product line, all directly applicable.
Okay. All right. And favorite amenity?
My kids would probably tell me the splash pad, but I think just the overall natural beauty of Harmony.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
Hello, Mr. Shirley. Thank you for putting yourself forward. It's wonderful to find so many people who are willing to join the board. It's a rewarding experience. I'm enjoying it very much. So I hope that for whoever is, what would you do differently than what we've done?
I think a lot of it would revolve around timing. Mrs. Meek brought up the paving of the alleyways. If we were to hold off on the paving of the current project until for something like when the county came in to pave the main roads, all that heavy equipment's there, probably could have saved some money in that space. Managing budget and spend, not raising residence rates on the CDD fees.
And which items in the budget would you cut in order to have done that?
Possibly look at reconstituting field services underneath the CDD instead of outsourcing. Holding off on the paving. Seeing if we could reach an agreement with the state around the invasive weeds.
Okay. All right. And what are you hoping to accomplish by being on board?
I would just like to bring my perspective into the various projects in and around the CDD board.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Again, have you read through the 171 pages of this month's agenda, Mr. Shirley?
I got about halfway through and then noticed my resume wasn't attached.
And knowing what we've discussed regarding the time commitment on a monthly basis, how much time do you think you can commit to the CDD for the role?
I don't think 12 hours or 12 to 16 hours would be a stretch at all for me. To the question of in-person attendance, I think I could probably hit about 75% of those. As far as in-person, Zoom, should get me up to almost 100%. I do travel globally, but I don't travel anywhere that there isn't an internet connection.
Okay, and then I know you said you're in federal sales, but what about handling budgets, both in terms of revenue and expenses?
Absolutely. So I manage the marketing budget, travel budget, the IRAD for my product line, all those various roll up underneath me.
Am I forgetting something? My question? No. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Accounting background?
Oh, well, I asked about his financial background.
Okay. Mr. Shirley, do you have any other governmental experience?
Besides selling to the government for the last 20 some years, I was also a veteran.
In government or anything?
I worked for the government as well. I was in the US Army, so, but I've not held elected office.
Okay. Have you ever served on any boards?
I am currently serving on the Harmony HROA board.
And serving on that board, what percentage of the meetings would you say you have attended so far in your service?
Yeah, probably around the 75% mark again.
Okay. Your financial disclosure, would you have any problem disclosing any of the information?
Not at all. I do a full financial forensics for my security clearance with the DoD.
What do you want to accomplish by serving on the board? I'm sorry, I think that was one of my questions, but it was already answered. So
Sorry.
That's not a problem.
Someone stole your question, Teresa.
Pardon?
Someone stole your question.
I know. It's, I can't go in. I think that's all I have. Any follow-up questions from anyone?
No.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Flynn. All right. Michael?
Well,
I'm sorry.
we're going in agenda order, right?
Yes, we had two other.
Yes,
So,
yeah,
Was-
well, it's, he's not in the agenda.
Not in the agenda. We had two additional.
yeah, no, they were added and, Mr. Zinsky was,
Yes, but she's W.
I'm W.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Not a problem. So yes, Michael, if you'd like to come forward. Watch your head.
Thank you.
All right. We have Mr. can you pronounce-
Michael Scalio, and I'm at 3338 Catbrier Trail.
One. Dan, would you like to start off?
yeah, again, thank you, for applying and the cover letter and all that, went through that, followed all of it, and quality background and all that, so, given that specifically, same question that everyone else, from your perspective, business, background here, have you seen anything that CDD has done, conducted ourselves, and decisions we've made that from your professional background could have been done better?
The only thing that I would say was probably improved upward-outward communication. One communication methodology, versus multi-communication methodologies, maybe a better approach. But until I'm actually in it and living it, there's maybe no way to judge the current board other than being into it.
Okay. And what's your favorite amenity?
I like the parks and the green spaces.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Young lady.
Oh, thank you. Wait about it, someone like. What prompted you to do this now as opposed to previously?
I'm running out of excuses for things in my life. It's time to really lean into things and, start being more of a steward to the community, steward to the environment and everything else. So I don't have excuses to lean on any longer. Life's short, gotta embrace it. It's coming for us all.
Yeah. And why do you want to be on the board? Or did I already ask you that? I'm sorry.
Sort of indirectly, but I think I answered it. It's about giving back at this point.
That's
It's about being a steward back to the community. The community's been great to us. It's time for me to be great back to the community.
Have you followed the board
Yes, ma'am.
recently? Okay.
I have followed the board since we moved here in November 2017. Started coming to meetings. I haven't been to every meeting, but I've been to a number of them.
Well, see, I've heard your name before and I can't, maybe you were at one of the meetings or something and spoke about something, because I can't quite place it, but, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you easy to get along with?
It's probably a trick question. I guess it depends on who you ask. You know, based on the scientific study that was done for the university here recently, I do have a high degree of agreeability. Good, bad, and different, that's just my trait.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Carol,
Mike,
bring it to me.
So, in preparation for this, were you able to get through all 170?
I was not. I'll go ahead and own that. Unfortunately, I did not get through all 61 or 71 pages. Will I, should selected, yes, that'll become part of my duties and responsibilities and thus should need to be fulfilled. Until this point, it hasn't been something that I needed to do. Just simple attendance was enough. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and for everybody, I asked this question just because it's a gauge of interest, right? How interested are you really in the CDD over time versus right now? That kind of applies to the question that Joe asked was, what prompted you now versus when there were open seats back in November? And I heard your answer, which is you've run out of excuses. I'm not sure really understand that, but anyway, you heard the time commitment. Tell us about that with your job, your family, and how you manage that.
The boys are getting older now. The last one's a senior in high school, so he's getting ready for college. They're all pretty much set. So it's a matter of now being able to dial back and come back to a balance. And so as part of that balance, being involved in the community is part of that.
I think Dan asked the question of what you do differently, and you mentioned something about communication and maybe one channel versus multiple channels.
Correct.
So go ahead if you want to elaborate on that a little.
Yeah, it's probably hard not to step in a number of the other applicants' answers, unfortunately. There are some hot topics. So, I think for me here recently, the communication one was on the alley paving. I found out about it with the signs. Surprise, we're going to be paving. Oh, wait, what about trash pickup? What about mail pickup? It just those sort of questions. And it was like, okay, cool. I can pivot. I can work with this and everything. I don't personally go on Facebook. So, for me, that's not a great communication thing. I remember the days where you could stop by and pick up, community flyer. It gave you all the information, stick it to your board. You're in your laundry room doing laundry. You can take a look at it. Oh, today's Taco Tuesday. And oh yeah, by the way, it's a board meeting. You get some nuggets that way, as opposed to, everything just being in a digital format. There's still some touch and tactile that I think is good. So that's the multi-communication methodology that I was kind of referring to.
Okay. You're a little more on your business background in terms of numbers, financials.
I'm a senior program manager. So yeah, I've got 5 class 1 railroads with 9 contracts total. It's it's managing the budgets of not only on execution, on time delivery, first pass yield. It's same that a lot of the other candidates are in and doing. Very, very similar.
Okay. And what percentage of the meetings would you be able to attend in person?
I think it'd probably be in the high 90s. There'd probably be maybe a rare occasion that I couldn't be here in person, and that off chance, that's what and the digital would be for. Otherwise, I'd prefer to be in person.
Thank you.
Your board experience.
How you're asking the question is board experience for this particular like elected type seat?
Yeah, or a more formal board.
Like the other candidates, I've got an engineering background, sat on a number of configuration control boards, so yes, board experience, yes. Elected board, no.
Any governmental experience as far as
Working for the government.
working for the government, being familiar with the governmental restrictions and
Other than say the FRA and other, I guess just in industry type things for Department of Energy from my power days. So
So you're familiar with some of the intricacies
Correct.
that government.
but not directly working for the government, no,
Financial disclosure, for instance.
not a problem.
And I know Teresa, well, my interpretation of why Teresa's asking the questions about serving on boards and working for, working within a governmental role is because as a CDD, as a government entity empowered by particular Florida statutes, there's a lot of restrictions that we face. And a lot of, there's not a lot of wiggle room in a lot of those restrictions. And so we're compelled to do things a certain way. And for some people who want to change the way we do things, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of wiggle room. And I don't know if that's one of the reasons that you were asking that question.
Right, yeah, just, it can be very restrictive. People are used to being able to meet another, individual or neighbor on the street, but you can't, if you run into the other board members, you can't have a chat about what's happening, and what you might vote on, and things like that. It's very rigid and restrictive, so we just need to be sure.
There's a difference with church and state.
Right. That you understand those restrictions and are willing to abide by them.
Yes, ma'am.
And even just in just how we can operate as a board, not just between ourselves, but the procedures that we have to follow according to statute or, as a government body, or can feel pretty like, oh, darn, why do we have to do it that way? And it's very, in business, you can just, things can be done fast, right? You can make decisions and execute.
Depends on the size of the organization. The bigger it is, the harder it is. So
That's true.
yes.
Yeah, but even though we're a very small little quasi-government entity, it still takes forever to get things done because we meet once a month and we can't talk in between. So that's another frustration for people serving on the board. I know it is for me.
Any other follow-up question?
Anything else? You
Thank
All
you.
right, awesome.
very
Thank y'all.
much. Put your head. Our Alrighty. Thank you so much for what you have. Yeah.
I don't think you're tall enough. though.
I'm not, my heels make me tall enough.
But we obviously have to say that to ladies, because they're usually.
Yeah.
More petite.
No, I'm careful. They know what's coming.
Hi,
Hi, how are you today?
I am very tired. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, so to be here is a good commitment.
Well, we appreciate your attending and being willing to answer our questions.
Anything you want to know, ask away.
She has to introduce herself.
Yes, if you will give us your.
Sure.
name.
Violetta Wilzinski, 3115 Dark Sky Drive.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Supervisor Lee.
Good evening. So same question, as everyone else with, your professional background and, university, we have a wonderful breadth of candidates, tonight, and so I thank everybody. for-
Diversity is huge tonight.
Yes, thank you. So from, your particular, background, is there something that you've either seen or heard of the board doing or a decision made, action that was taken that you would have done differently from your professional background?
My professional background is a trauma, marriage, and family therapist. So I will have 3 generations in one room and having to help them work through 3 generations worth of, you put in your expletive. And at the same time, honoring each person's voice. So I think that's something that has gone a little bit haywire over the last set of years. And I'm not saying like board wise, but I'm saying like within the community that we've definitely gone downhill and done a lot more attacking and not really respecting each other's point of views or things along those lines. So I really am more for not a people person, not a people pleaser, but get me your point of view and make sure you actually understand what your point of view is before you go out and try to go attack someone because you don't like what you're hearing or you don't like what you're seeing. So it's not necessarily like just on the board next aspect of it, but it's how our community overall has, we might have gotten away from our amenities, but we've also gotten away from our humanity, I feel, in a lot of ways.
And the very same question, what is your favorite amenity?
My amenity is the fact that we're here. I feel like I'm in a 1950s dream. My kids can go out, ride their bikes. I don't have to worry about them. I'm not concerned about the fact that there's gonna be that white van that's gonna go after my kid. They can go fishing. We can go do a boat. Sorry, Neil. But we can do just anything we want. I train dogs, and during the day I can go to a dog park. I can go to any dog park and there won't necessarily be a dog there. So I can do the large amount of dog training I want. And if there are dogs there, I walk away and I'll find another location. But when we want to play, we can play with dogs and the kids can play with the other dogs and things along those lines. I like how it's set up so that way it is family oriented. Hence, my house is a 3-generation home. So you've got all 3 of us under one roof, enjoying the community. Like my mother-in-law, there are times where she walks to church. There are times where I walk to my church. And we've actually got 2 churches in one community. Like that's beautiful to me. I think that allows us to have our diversity and to actually be our individualities.
Thank you. Questions for now?
Is there something that you would have done differently in, that you're aware of that this board has done?
I'm gonna agree a little bit with the communication concept. But I think like our hardest part is that we do have such a large community now. We don't have a small community. It's not like when it was first made. So to communicate by putting something up on a bulletin board in town square or having the visitation building open and you could go in and just talk to someone, you could get that information. We have to find ways of where people who aren't on social media, people who don't necessarily get mail or don't want mail, people who don't read email, like getting that communication is very difficult, but getting the information out needs to come out somehow better. So, you know, when Toho is about to go ahead and clear all of our fire hydrants, we get that sign out there. Maybe we need to do something that's a little bit more blasting that says, hey, by the way, can you please double check whatever form of communication you get from us? We have something important coming up. And just, I'm totally an out of the box thinker, as big as you can get. I am as big, and then I go all the way to the fine little details. So it's out there. If we can get the same sign that they use, why not? If we need to use a sign that is for like yard sales and we post it up on both entrances and literally say, hey, we have things coming up. Please read your information from us, whatever format you like to get it at. That would be, I think, a little bit of an easier way of making sure we're getting the communication and not all of a sudden shocked that, oh, there's trees being trimmed and I can't go down this road and I'm all of a sudden not able to go down this alley and things like that.
Don't we have signs ordered?
For what?
The, you know, both entrances that are kind of gonna serve that purpose?
For Toho?
No, for announcements.
We talked about it, but the board has not yet made a
Right.
decision.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes, that is something we've been working towards.
Okay. All right, and I think your resume addressed why you didn't do it in November. You had some family issues.
Yeah, unfortunately, my mother-in-law's sister took a major stroke, so they had to go off and drive, which meant that we were taking care of.
I didn't mean you had to explain.
Oh, no big deal.
Yeah,
We all of a sudden had way more pets than humans in the household that we needed to take care of, and I looked at the date that it was due, and I didn't know when they would be
Yeah.
coming back, and I was
But I
just
asked
like,
everyone else that question. So
No
I didn't
problem.
wanna, yeah.
exclude me, don't exclude me.
Right,
Let me answer.
right. So, yeah, I think that was it. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming forward.
As I've asked everybody else, how many pages did you get through this
I read the entire bloody thing and then my printer died because I tried to look over and print it up. Because I did print it up because I am also a landscape and I'm going to use a very bad word. We'll leave it as I'm a landscape hoe. I love landscape, which means that when we've had Ian or the latest storms, I'm the one that's actually driving around and picking up people's fences or picking up a chair that just left outside of their front yard because there was nobody there or things along those lines, just to get it to safety. Our town square, all of those tables and umbrellas were almost into the middle of the road. I ended up literally bringing them all the way back to as far back as possible and going around and doing stuff along those lines. So yes, I read this, but I'm also a person of action when I see when something needs to get taken care of. And some of the stuff that we've had to have taken care of just need to be taken care of and not ask permission because you don't want an umbrella going through someone's window.
And what about the time commitment? Tell us about that.
You can have me 100% of the time. I own my own business. So I do what I want to do when I want to do it and for as many hours as I want to do it. I am my own boss.
And I know sometimes when you're your own boss, you have a tyrant for a boss. So
My boss seems to do pretty well on balancing back and forth between my needing of being at home. I have 3 teenagers, so they're all go to paths. That involves us getting up at ungodly hour of a morning. So that's why usually I'm up at like 2 o'clock in the morning doing emails and things along those lines. So by the time they're up at 5, right at the house at 6 for a 7:10 start. Just so gross. So gross.
what percentage of the meetings do you think you'd be able to attend?
Oh, you got me 100%. That's the main thing. Yeah.
And tell us about your experience with financials.
So actually in high school, I took accounting, and if they had done dual enrollment like they did now, I took accounting all the way through to the point of where the teacher had to order books. It was me and one other girl, and we did it all the way through. We should have gotten our CPAs, but they never actually did it that way back then as I aged myself. So plus I run my own business, so my money must be on dot, and I'm in the process of trying to get a nonprofit, which means there is no messing around with money.
Okay, thank you.
Have you ever served on any boards before?
I have not served on boards, but I've served on particular committees that are with the FBI, like, so I do human trafficking. So I'll work with your sheriff's officers and your FBI and things along those lines. I'm your pulse therapist. So I'm the crazy person who went up to the FBI and yelled at them because they were doing things wrong and inappropriately.
Have you had any experience in public service or government before?
Oh, you asked those questions backwards. I'm actually the SAC secretary for my kids' school, and I have been for the last few years. I'm the only parent out of over 500 students that is actually walking around, even doing stuff for the school, because no one knows about it. It's paths, but the kids are such good kids that no one knows anything about them. So I'm literally out there getting teacher affirmation, teacher appreciation stuff and things along those lines, and getting business partners for them, working with Mr. Jack Arnott so that way we can get better skill sets going for our schools, and so we have better educational programs available for them. So I've done that one, and I know there's one more, but I don't remember what that one was. It was a few years ago. Basically, yes.
Financial disclosure.
You can have it. Enjoy.
What do you want to accomplish in serving them?
One, I do like the idea of, don't kill me, adding a little bit of an age difference, because you do have a level of maturity that's on that side of the table. I am not as experienced in life. So there's a learning curve where you guys can teach me stuff, but there's also stuff that I can also assist with. And I really do see we have like a gap when it comes to providing for our kids. We have babies, we got toddlers, we got our elementary school kids. middle schoolish, sort of, kind of. That's why they're still painting the bridge every time you turn around. The tunnel, I mean. And then we have our high school kids that literally just walk around. You will see them all summer walk around. If they're not into sports, they don't have something. So it's one of those things I would like to figure out how we can get a little bit more for them, something they can be involved in. And at the same time, maybe also find out a little bit more family stuff. Like I know Jennifer Harmony does a lot of stuff for her families, but doing something on a more regular basis that would allow for them to, I'm family and marriage therapist, so get the families more together, especially at those crucial ages. I mean, I've got a 14, a 15 and a 17-year-old.
Right. Thank you very much. Any follow-up question?
Thank you very much.
I just have a lighthearted one.
Yes.
You mentioned for children,
Yep.
but where's that for senior citizens?
Oh, the senior citizens are actually in my home, so you can come on over and I will play canasta with you because I am a canasta. I also play spoons, but I don't play it fairly, so I warn you now, I'm very, very competitive. We play games with my in-laws like there's no tomorrow. So yes, we definitely.
Well, you were talking about diversity, but you left out the old people. in the
I'm
so I
not
just
trying to
wanted
leave them out. I just want you to understand that since we do have an active living area now, that they aren't actually as left out as we thought before. We still do have a hole for our teens that are going towards high school and in high school, or the ones that are dual enrolling and doing both college and high school at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's a hard road of where they need something to feel relaxed and decompress their brains.
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
so
very good.
thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Those are our 7 applicants for the position. So I don't know if you want some discussion before the board or if anybody feels strongly enough to put a particular candidate forward or how you all want to handle it.
So. In light of, everyone's sat through this, everyone's, given all the background and everything. I don't think we have any follow-up questions for anyone specifically. Question for Michael, would it make sense, and procedurally it was okay if, would maybe it be appropriate for the board to maybe do like a ranked voting kind of thing, like if we put, is that,
I don't think that would be a good one.
okay.
Talk amongst yourselves or however you would like to do it, you. Motions.
It's a little after 8. I need to take a quick break. So if you all want to talk, I'll be right back.
Well, you're saying, did you say make a motion, like one of us is gonna nominate?
What I usually see is each person would say, hey, these are the 2 that stood in front of me for this particular position, and everybody could understand, you shouldn't get hurt feelings. I mean, there's just 1 out of 7 that's going to be selected, and there's going to be opportunities that come up in the future. But each board member would say, okay, well, these are the 2 that I think are the best fit for me. And you can say why, and then move on down. And you may find out that you have a general consensus by going through that kind of a process. And then there'd be a motion and a vote. But I think a little bit of discussion among the board members prior to just throwing one name out there, I think would be a good idea.
Yes.
I just want to get into ranking.
Okay, yeah, I was
Yeah.
maybe trying to dodge, okay. All right, well, I would just like to again thank everyone that consideration. Supervisor of elections is where you look if you aren't chosen tonight and still have this same desire to contribute. I would hope that most of all of you consider that in the future, because the engagement is really affirming to see. Really good to see that.
And we can wait for her to come back.
Okay. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts.
Well, I am no further ahead now than I was before I came to the meeting. I really think you're all phenomenal. And even you, Mr. Meeks, I don't have anything. I know my questions weren't very nice, but you would be a very valuable asset to this board. And so I hope that my comments, I think we could come to an agreement, and I think we had a misunderstanding before from your answer. So anyhow, so yeah, I'm afraid I'm not gonna be a very good CBD board member tonight because I don't wanna, let anybody go. I know.
So I'll just say, and I don't know how much value this will be, but just to offer to everybody who's a candidate that how I'm gonna make my decision, right? So my decision is based on several factors. It's not just on the questions I asked, it's on the information that was provided by each person when they applied, as well as what their background is, you know, how they've handled other people, other business situations, how they conducted themselves during the interview, and just a sense of, you know, how well might we be able to work together to affect positive changes in the community. So I'm just putting that out there, that those are the criteria that I'm using in my decision.
My apologies for stepping you know.
That's all right.
You gotta go, you gotta go.
I don't, is there any other discussion like along those lines? I mean, I'll take the ones up without my top three, I guess.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't sure if there was any other discussion along the lines of what Carol had. I can go ahead and get my top three, I guess, and.
Go ahead.
Okay, my top three would be Chukanis, Scalio, and Wilzinski.
We do first name.
Lucas, Michael, and Violetta. Violetta?
Oh, we need to spell B.
B.
Okay.
Oh, are we doing top threes?
Just for the.
He just did that.
That was,
Yeah, consultation.
Top two, but top three, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And again, the reason why you do this is once you have heard that, then you can focus on, okay, well, why did you have this person? And you all can have a discussion. You may realize that you have a consensus and you didn't know it unless you have this.
If we all give our top two or three and there's only one that's in common, then that's the decision basically.
All right. Joe, do you have any, or do you want me to go?
No.
I'll go. I'll go next. Again, Lucas, and then Joseph Davis, and then Michael.
I have the same three, Mike, Joe, Lucas.
Joe, do you have a preference?
That was Lucas, Mike, and Joe, and then he was Lucas, Mike, and Violetta.
And so we, Teresa and I shared those three.
Yeah.
Figuratively speaking.
Well, when I looked at it at home before I came, I actually had Lucas on my radar to listen very carefully to what he said. And Michael and Joe and me. And, you know,
Can I put a motion forward?
yes, you may, because I'm hopeless.
I would make a motion that we appoint Lucas Chukanis to the board. Do I have?
With tremendous thanks to all that.
Yes.
Put their names and everything out there. I'll second.
Are you doing that because I said that I was? Oh,
But
okay.
it's a motion, we can keep discussing.
Yeah.
Well, because you had Lucas and Michael, all
Right.
of you had Lucas and Michael. So
We have a motion in a second.
And Joe. Well,
And,
And,
yes,
well, yeah.
and Joe, yeah, we both had Joe. Wait. So, any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lucas, you were my third pick. Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Welcome to the board. And I do very much want to thank everybody who was here and who put their name in the hat. Please, there's sometimes, as you notice, board seats open up for totally unknown reasons. We never know when they're gonna come up. Please stay in touch with us.
Thank you.
And definitely jump in on the election. It's a lot of work. And I do want to say one thing, that the election process itself is, is not as daunting. I think a lot of people do not run because it is a formal election with a lot of strict laws and rules and things. But it's not as daunting as it seems. The supervisor of elections office is really good to work with and will guide you every step of the way. So if you choose to go that route in pursuing a seat on the board, love to have you.
Well, that was a lot easier than what you guys went through tonight. Doing the elections.
All right.
2024 is still on second. Let him read the oath
Of office.
for the record.
I'll have to take the oath.
And I'll get it notarized and everything for you, but you want to read this. Get all the other stuff off that you don't need to read.
Separated my right hand.
Yes.
Right hand, and we're going to Bible.
Yeah, where's the Bible?
And probably should stand as well.
Okay.
Read this.
I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida. That I am duty qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of army community of which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Do you like to take compensation?
Yes,
Welcome to the board.
thank you. Thank you.
Nice to have you.
And Mike needs to give his.
Okay,
speech.
awesome.
All right.
So you're now a public official, just like a county commissioner, a city council person, which means you're going to be subject to various laws. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is called the Sunshine Law. And that means that you cannot talk to another board member about matters that may come before the board for action outside of a publicly noticed meeting. So if you see another board member at the grocery store, you can talk about sports, community events that have nothing to do with the CDD family. That's fine. You can't talk to them about, hey, we really don't like the attorney we have. We want to go ahead and get rid of him. You got to wait and do that in the public meeting. Okay, or landscaping issues, things like that. You just bring them up in the public meeting. And if you want to figure out how to bring that up without talking to the chair, talk to Angel, because what Angel can do is she can go ahead and put it on the agenda, either as a supervisor request or an agenda item. So you'll get the opportunity to be able to have that discussion, and the chair will work with Angel on making sure that happens. Yeah, I mean, well, she's, and she can't be a conduit of communication either, under the Sunshine Law, and that applies to all forms of communication. So text messages, emails, phone calls, verbal conversations, competing social media posts, which, by the way, social media is a terrible way to govern. That's my opinion. So it's great for providing information about the government, but trying to shape policy hasn't worked yet. And so the second issue is you're going to be subject to the public records law. So, I see you have a notepad. If you're taking notes after you become a supervisor, those are all public records. You'll need to maintain those. You should have a separate email, either account address is what I would recommend, and she can work with you on that. And so that way, all your records are separate. If you should get a email about CDD business to a personal email or to a work email, forward it to that email box so that the record is there. I also recommend, because of the public records law, you really don't text about CDD business, just because it's really hard to maintain and to produce those. Social media posts are also public records once you make them. So if you are going to make those, you got to make a record of what you said, like a screenshot or something like that, and be able to maintain that. So it's another reason I say to stay away from that.
Okay.
The final set of laws are really the code of ethics that are applicable to public officials in Florida. And the main thing there is, if something's going to come up for a vote or a discussion where you may have a personal interest, a financial interest, or any family member has a financial interest, you should reach out to me, because certain family members you can't vote on those issues, but depending on how close a relative they are, you can. One of the good things. Yeah, you would reach out to me and I tell you, hey, this is okay, this is not okay. one of the things that's nice about Florida is if there's an appearance of a conflict and you don't want to vote on it because you don't even want to give the appearance, even though it's legally perhaps allowed, you can declare a conflict because nobody ever gets punished for over declaring a conflict and not participating in the vote. So, but other than that, I'll give you my card. We'll send you a new supervisor notebook, which has a whole bunch of information about the district. Angel's office will, but I would say Angel will be your clearinghouse for questions.
Okay.
And if it's purely legal, you can reach out to me, but otherwise start with Angel and then she'll bring me into the loop in the event that it's something I should be able to help with. Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, great. All right. And we hope you read the stuff we're gonna go over next. We're gonna look to you for it. Yes. All right, and we are quite late in the evening, so I don't know if the board wants to go through the entire agenda or if we want to hit on some high points.
Maybe we table the fence proposals for now?
Can I ask one
Yes.
question, Chairman, if you can bring that, the only thing I need from you, you can table everything else, don't care.
Okay.
But if you can just bring up this.
This symbiont,
Maybe
About the
pool.
splash pad?
No, this is
No.
the pool heater.
So what
Go ahead.
happened is the last meeting, your pool heater were messed up. You approved one. Symbiont did not send us the proposal for the second pool heater that needed to be repaired as well. They sent it after the fact, after our meeting. So when we did the maintenance agreement that you all also approved at the last meeting, she wouldn't sign it, so I inquired about it. She's like, well, it's because it's for two and we're not gonna sign a maintenance agreement for two and the other one needs to be repaired. So it needs to be repaired and this is the proposal. And I apologize for not making it into the agenda. She literally sent it over to me today.
So this is what's considered a walk-on on the agenda. It was not posted on the agenda, and because of that, we need to open up the public comment period. And what this is our pool heaters are aging rapidly. They need some major work done. We approved some repairs, and in fact, I understand it's already been done to one of the pool heaters, which is a little over $3,000. The second pool heater, this proposal is for,
$4,131.66.
okay. And that will bring both of our pool heaters back up to a state of repair. I do want to be sure that everybody understands that these are very old heaters, and information from the company is that we'll be lucky to get a couple of years out.
Yeah, they need to
before
be
we have
replaced, and you're
But the
looking at
cost
about
of-
$60,000.
To
Today,
replace
if
them.
you were to do it today.
So again, this might get us through. So at this time, I'll open it up for public comment. If anybody has a comment on the pool heater situation, whether to go forward with this or not. Again, we're halfway through the repair process. So do I see any public comment?
Does the pool have two?
Step up. Sorry, I gotta do this whole thing.
Sorry.
Sorry, Marilyn.
That's okay. It's just that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of sofa.
It is.
Sorry.
And when you
Drop that
sat for a
one.
couple hours, it's
Yeah.
even harder. Marilyn Ashmore, 6852 Butterfly Drive. Are you saying that the pool at the swim club has two heaters on it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because the other pool is not heated, right?
Right, the other
Okay.
pool is not heated. These are two heaters that work in conjunction with one another. So if
With
you
the pool.
replace one, you have to replace the other.
Okay,
And so that's the situation we're in right now.
okay, great. Thanks for that.
I got
Yeah.
a question. As far as our budget goes, when does the budget end for that, our year? When is the fiscal?
October 1st through September 30th. That's the fiscal year. So we'll always start a new budget October 1, and there's deadlines to get the budget approved. The first deadline was June 14th. 15th.
At least June 15th.
June 15th.
So it's my opinion, that summer's coming up, maybe that one heater might suffice for that time being. I don't know if that's an option or not, but they're very expensive, right? And I don't know what our budget is right now, it's gone on, but we're getting into warmer times. Sometimes the pool is very hot. It feels like a bathtub.
Agreed, and your residents would probably
Like,
not agree with you
Oh.
at that very moment that you just stated that.
You're right.
Especially with the comments we get, if that pool is not 80 something degrees, we get inundated.
yeah, okay.
But if we spend the money to replace the heaters, we're gonna get inundated, so welcome to. the
Here's
board.
here's something I should have asked everybody. How thick is your skin?
Yes.
This is- You're gonna take.
Bring on the haters, bring on the.
Well, not haters, it just,
Yeah, it's the same.
Any other questions about?
So we've already spent $3,000 something dollars. We're looking at spending another $4,000, which is about what, 12% or so of what it would cost to replace the heaters, which we probably are gonna have to do in another couple of years. At a current price of about $60,000. And we have lots of projects we're trying to accomplish. And we have limited reserves. So my sense is, maybe we need to just bite the bullet on this, and get through the next couple of years while we're saving more reserves to be able to replace the heaters. Because
Definitely.
replacing the heaters will be coming out of reserves, correct?
Yeah, but definitely if you're gonna approve this with, I know exactly what you just said, keep in mind that over the next budget cycle or so, you start stashing that money because they're going to have to be replaced. You really don't have an
If-
option.
Right, if we decide to keep the pool heater,
Correct.
and I'm sure I'll get comments about that.
There's
Yes, you will.
1 year, there's 1 year warranty on this particular work being done. My understanding that would be 60,000 to replace the set of both heaters.
Yes, it was about 30,000, just under 30,000 for each one, but that's today's pricing.
Sure.
Understood.
Yep.
That.
Based on that, I would move to approve the total 31,66 for the repair of the second heater.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to go ahead and pay the 41, the amount for repair of the second heater. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
What did you bet?
I am just so
Yeah.
wishy-washy tonight.
Oh,
If you would have suggested we replace them now, I would have said yes, and if you're saying to this, because both ways have.
there's,
merit. You're right,
Can't abstain, so you're going down as a yes.
right. Well, I'm at the age now that I just get new stuff, because I don't be around long enough to enjoy it if I wait.
Has this been prepared before, or is this the first repair?
I think
Second repair.
second.
But
Oh,
these are
the
second,
Yeah, the second proposal,
It's-
first repair.
the second major repair. The problem was that we did have a maintenance agreement on them for whatever reason back a number of years. They
2019, I think.
dropped the maintenance agreement. So they were not properly maintained and the warranty was not intact. So,
They're also 20 years old.
yes. They're aging. And that is one of the main things with the district right now is that almost everything is 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of deferred maintenance that we now need to address. That's where we are. Any other critical items? The fence,
I think I
I need
moved
to
to,
stew on that along.
I need to, I move to table item 5A1 fence proposals till the next meeting. That's okay with everybody?
Okay, yeah.
All right, I'm table,
Table
I'd
it.
like to table it.
Can I have
Are there-
just one part of that, though? Can we find out if we're required to have a fence?
We will definitely look at that, because that's going to be one of the questions, and
Okay.
for Lucas's benefit, I don't know if you got to that section in the agenda, but replacing our frontage fence
Oh, yeah.
looks like it's gonna cost between anywhere from $120,000 to $180,000. Yes, that's that wide,
But that's to do it all at once.
yes. So that will be something you need to figure out.
Is that the same wooden fence or are we looking?
That is a PVC.
It's all recycled PVC.
Yeah. And again, it's 20 years old, so the sun damages crumbling. So we either need to replace it or remove it and do something else. So that's something to think about. From our field management folks, is there anything critical that needs to be addressed for field management?
If you want to introduce Jason Castillo. He is, been out here for a few weeks now. He will be moving into that field. He actually already has moved into that field manager position. I'm sure you've seen him out in the community, working, doing things. So I just wanted to formally introduce.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Full spelling, Jason.
Thank you. Thank my mom for that.
It's wonderful to have you on board.
Great to be here.
And is there?
I just
Any
want to say,
questions for
you know,
me?
you've heard from residents, some of whom were running about some of their complaints about the condition of some of the number of the amenities and you know, you're going to be not only in charge of those amenities, but also a liaison with landscaping, which, you know, we have a new landscaper and hopefully it doesn't fall down within 3 months, but so just
You've got
looking,
your work cut out.
you've got your work cut out for you.
I'm ready.
And we look forward to having you on
Same
board.
here. That'll be excited for the journey.
The only other thing that, the field manager, unless there's something critical, Brett, or. I do want to give you an update on moving because we do again have to move field management out of that
Office.
same area as we do the RV lot. I did speak with Amy Templeton of the county. She said that moving into the,
Swim club?
not Ashley Park.
Well, it's the Ashley Park Swim Club concessions area, right?
Right, that concession area there in Ashley Park at the pool, would be okay. We wouldn't have to do anything except for if we're making any, shifts in walls or anything, we'd have to get a building permit for internal changes. Said that would go through without any problem at all. When I talked to her about the possibility of using that U2 track on either end, she said what she would ask us to do is to do a rough plan, just doesn't have to be a formal fancy, a rough drawing, send it in. There won't be any charge or anything. They can run it through to make sure that that would be in there. So we can go ahead and pull something together to get their yay or nay on that.
Okay,
So
and that'll be
just-
brought to us the next meeting?
Yes, we'll bring that back here next meeting.
Just for clarification, Teresa.
Yes.
Who's bringing that back? Is that something, a rough plan? Is that us? Is that?
Who's gonna
Dave?
create
The rough plan, I don't know. Yeah, there's something,
No.
but I don't know, can you guys do it or?
A rough plan, like how rough are we talking?
This is
If it's
really rough.
super rough, we can totally do it. But if it's,
I think it's just they want an idea
just
of
for the
where a
size of the
building is
building
gonna be
and
on a plot, whether there's any fencing. You know, the size of the building.
I can,
Well, I would draw it, but then I would want someone to.
no,
review it.
I've got a computer techie that can actually lay it out and stuff. But you will need to give me dimensions and what all it needs to be. Okay, so you will give me the stuff and I will.
And this is
a rough-
for the storage area.
For the, let's not call it storage areas, community maintenance facility. Okay, we need to use the key words. And we just need to draft up basically what the parking area, and so I'll get with you on that and we'll work together. And just.
Teresa, Brett, Jason will work on that.
Okay.
Got it.
Good?
Thank you.
And can we, since it came up earlier, and I know you, been in communication, Brett, could you give us an update on the splash pad?
Yeah.
The notepad.
Oh, yeah, and the boat, and the boat.
Well, yeah, a boat, I mean, in the report, I see that there's several, like, several maintenance items that were brought up, seats are being ordered, I see upholstery, scheduled to be done. Maybe I missed it, I don't know if there's anything specific for the splash pad, and there have been recent developments with that, so I could just see the update.
Let me go on the boat first. So last year, the boat concern was batteries, which have since been replaced. The trolling motors that are on the boat have been there since, I know, prior to Vincent being in his position. So the newer trolling motors that we brought on, the front mounted trolling motors are Minn Kotas. They're higher brand. Apparently they were, the older motors were made by Valley, I believe, Vessel. I knew it began with a V, which I've never even heard of. And I think they were purchased off of Amazon at some sort of cheaper price. I do support moving to a larger, more reputable trolling motor just because I have a boat myself. We are looking at some sort of battery inverter to help transfer power from one to another and kind of balance it. I will tell you that I have been in constant communication with the gentleman here tonight. He basically said that that's useless in a sense, that the power inverter. My suggestion and what I was going to talk to Angel about is tomorrow, we found them, they're in stock, they're rear mounted or transom mounted 80-pound thrust trolling motors. They're hard to find. He did actually locate them. I would recommend that we move forward with them.
How many?
There's two.
Do we
One for
need,
each.
do we need any kind of purchasing protocol?
It falls within their.
If it goes above there, they have to get a bunch of quotes.
No, they
in
just.
Not a
they
bunch,
just have to get two.
we have to get
quotes
two, but
off of a catalog.
Bass Pro Shop doesn't
Yeah.
carry them, at least the Minn Kota transom mounts, so they're
But you
very,
can
very
go
challenging.
online and find pricing
Yeah,
for it.
even Amazon was like, they're out of stock, so
But for still pricing, does that not meet the?
Yes, it meets.
it
the
does,
requirement.
it does. So even like we've looked, so that's why, I've since shared it. I did share it with Teresa, the quote, and I gave some explanation. And again, that was driven from the resident earlier. So
Now, what we need to understand though is we've got to be careful, these keep batteries like crazy.
Yeah.
And the problem is we give our residents instructions, do not go past half throttle and do not drain the battery more than halfway down. Unfortunately, those are frequently not followed, so we really need a cutoff mechanism that cuts the battery off at half charge. You draw a battery all the way down constantly and charge it back up and it destroys the battery. So that's what we need to find some way to control that discharge. So that, and maybe it's just really hammering it home that your deposit's going to be affected if you bring it back less than half charge or something. But I'll leave it up to you to find a way to manage those batteries because they're not an outrageous expense. They're $120.
yeah, we're going to more deep cycle marine batteries. Again, some of the older batteries that were purchased were just like generic
Yeah.
car batteries that you can still use, but you want deep cycle, and the guys are checking the batteries. It's more or less just. Sometimes they come in and there's not a lot of trickle time, you don't get that
Yeah.
trickle charge is what you want, but you got to turn back around because they're rented back out. So you don't get that good charge on them sometimes that you need. In terms of the maintenance of the boats. I will speak on this and I explained it to the gentleman as well, like. Even prior field stuff, nobody's a boat mechanic, so the thought too was if we get these trolling motors, the ones that we have, we're not gonna just discard. That yes, there's some issues with them. The one vessel that isn't working that he was referencing is still under warranty. We're getting parts from the vendor. They gotta ship them in, but we're gonna hold on to that once the repairs are made so that if we have an issue with one of these transom mounts, we won't take it out of service necessarily. We'll be able to switch the motor out and hold on to them. So, that's key, but yes, the boats are down on Tuesdays. But none of our guys are boat mechanics, even pulling apart an electric trolling motor. So then we have to take it over to Toho and we have to, and I'll be honest, repairing boats, just if you've ever owned one, it's a hole in the water that you throw money at, regardless if it's a gas motor or not. Toho's not going to be cheap. Then we have to take it to another marina. So sometimes that does delay the repair process. So having those extra ones in place will help. In terms of the, yes,
About the Tuesday thing, that's a rest day for the lake. That's not a maintenance day for the boats. Just to clarify for anybody listening, it is
Okay.
not a maintenance day for the boats. It is a rest day for the lake. So that the lake can environmentally be healthier than if we're constantly out on it all the time.
the other quick suggestion, I know you and I have talked about it in the past. I still think we should look at some form of awning, cover, overhang that the boats can physically be stored underneath. Because I think this is the third or fourth time in a year we've reupholstered seats.
Yes, we need some sort of covers, either an awning or covers for the seats that can be put on.
Well, I'm just saying, even putting the vessels underneath some sort of overhang.
Yeah,
Because it's, the sun is beating them up. I mean, it really is, and I don't,
the wind on the lake, I'm guessing that something to cover the seats on the boat instead of a structure that can easily get blown over in the wind when we have
Well,
a.
the other problem with the structures from the Army Corps. We've got Army Corps permitting,
we can get seat covers.
but yeah, we
They're-
can get.
We're just gonna keep, you know, he mentioned that the one.
I
holds
mean,
water.
something to cover the seats.
Right. Some.
Not a seat.
We'll
not-
make that note.
Once
We'll
it's
take a look.
recovered,
Yeah.
something to cover the street is the seats when it's not used.
And then the guys, when they get it ready for somebody to go out, they just pull them off. And maybe we can get a dock box out there that they can put them in and then put them back on.
Okay. You
But those are
writing
gonna
those
get
notes
eaten up
down?
by the sun. Those are gonna get eaten up. by the
Oh,
sun.
Yeah,
they're
but-
not expensive.
Yeah, they're not as expensive as
And I
reupholstery.
will say, the one boat, the smallest pontoon boat,
Oh, it's.
I think that's the oldest in the fleet too, if I'm not
that's the
mistaken.
one my grandson and I love to go on. Cause it's a sturdy
It-
boat
we-
and
We
it's.
just need to
Yeah,
need
but-
to do some maintenance on it,
but
and I
just-
think I've mentioned it.
Yeah, it's just because it look nice though, it's not a big issue, and I bring a beach towel to sit on when I go on the boat.
Yeah, so that covers I think it dots the i's and crosses the t's on the boat conversation.
Okay.
Obviously, we'll get the mud daubers taken care of and make sure trash and stuff like that is addressed. The splash pad.
Mhm.
Update on the splash pad. So VFD vendor came out, which by the way, he has not invoiced us for any of the work he's done. He's actually done it kind of just.
Now, this is the board that runs it.
Yeah, so the way the splash pad
electronics.
works, right, the splash pad has a VFD, which is a variable flow device that tells the pump to increase pressure, or increase RPMs, decrease RPMs, it's a computer. And that has a cycle, so the splash pad would cycle through different things, so that VFD is basically the computer telling the pump that we just replaced what to do. Once we put that in, we called the VFD guy, come back out, program it, get it going, he's like, I can't get it to ramp up more than 60 hertz on the motor. So he's like, his initial thought, working with VFDs, was there's gotta be some sort of clog in the lines, solenoid bad, so on and so forth. We reached out to 8 vendors, Jason, 7 vendors, 7 or 8 vendors to come out to get it deep clean. Most of them are like, no, we don't do that work, or we're too busy. I know we reached out to the vendor we used at Vista Lakes to come out works on fountains. They're like, listen, we're slammed, we can't get out. Finally got Florida Aqua Group, another vendor we used, to come out. They did the deep cleaning. I think it was $300 or $400 on it. So not a massive expense, but still an expense. He did it, started working with the VFD again, couldn't get it to ramp up. So we asked him, recommendation. We have it's called Fountain Professionals LLC. They're out of Sarasota. They're coming next Tuesday, correct? This coming Tuesday, sorry, to work on it. We haven't received a quote from them yet. But from what Jason mentioned and speaking with them, is that it's not going to be very cheap. Because they have to get the programming from the VFD and program the pump to run that cycle. So I don't have that cost yet, but we've exhausted a ton of effort and time trying to get the VFD with a guy that does pumps and VFDs. I'm thinking more along the irrigation side, because they use a lot of VFDs to vary flow. They're 75 horsepower pumps. But next week, Tuesday, they should be coming out. I just don't have a price yet. So as soon as I find that out, I will share it with the board. Obviously, I'm not asking for approvals because can't do that in email. That's for your sake. But we will notify you once we get a price, and Jason will follow up with them again tomorrow. So we realize and recognize it's a heavily used amenity. Dan's been every week for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And we've been communicating back and forth. I've been giving them updates. It's been difficult getting people to come out and work on it, to be honest.
In the interest of facilitating, would it make sense and would the board agree, should we maybe do even not having pricing, but maybe a not to exceed? We want to, just in the interest of.
I have no idea.
Well, we could follow the procurement policy. I think is probably the best way to do it, because once it gets over a certain threshold, I think Teresa has an authority to approve, so.
Okay.
I don't, knock on, if this is real wood, I don't anticipate it being over Teresa's threshold,
Okay.
So we'll.
and I hope not.
Otherwise, we may have to consider.
Yeah.
And one more, circling back to the votes, the game was brought up. I know with with Vincent at, some of the equipment and all that, and what's this at?
Yeah, so we did get separate pricing. We were able to find another Door King dealer. They're called Control Access Systems. And their quote to replace that same board was actually like half the price of TEM. So we went with that price, which is a good thing. They drug their feet on getting out. They were supposed to be here last week, Tuesday, didn't show up. Then they came out last week, Friday, started doing work, then had to go fix something or something. I'll let Jason speak on that because I didn't get to understand it completely, but they started working on it last week, Friday. They had an issue that some of the cards in the last 2 to 3 months with some of the work they did probably have to get reprogrammed. So Vincent and Jason are now reaching out to all the people that they've sent cards to the last couple weeks or months to get them to send their card numbers back in so we can get them back into the system. And they should be here tomorrow, Jason? Tomorrow, Control Access should be here to finish that.
And that's fixing it for access for all with so the current state is that it's still needing repair, but after tomorrow, we're thinking it will be working except for the last few months that need to be updated.
That is the correct assumption.
And you'll send the blast
As
out.
soon as Jason informs me, I'll make sure you all are aware of it.
Because I thought it was working now. I thought that's what I got an update and I pulled the gate. It's,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be.
yeah, okay.
But am I correct in understanding that a person might be able to open that gate, but they can't get into the boats? That. gate
Right,
has
they
another-
cannot get down to the.
Boathouse.
Right, I
They
think,
can get down to the kayaks and canoes, to
Right,
sailboat, but not the motorized boat.
right, if they're brave enough to walk through that and get in a canoe, they could get to the boats by water, but.
Now you're releasing all
I
the
think a-
secrets, Joe.
But there are no oars. The oars are locked
Yeah.
away.
Oh, well, and I'm not reaching in that water.
Shouldn't
to have-
happen so often. There was some sitting in the sailboat.
But I think there's a lot of people that think that people are able to go to our boats because of that gate, and that is not the case.
Yes.
Right, but a lot of people have never been back there, so they just.
That is something else that we'll talk about for capital expenditures down the road, the
Okay.
gate access systems.
Thank you.
District engineer, anything critical that needs to be addressed?
No, you took away my site plan, my boathouse, another word.
And you've got a building trail to work on, right?
Yeah,
We did go out and,
look at Billy's Trail.
everybody looked at Billy's Trail. And what do we, there's a culvert or two, or one?
There's 2 culverts, one in the middle by the wetland conservation area, and then one at the very end at the cul-de-sac. Went out with Dan, Mr. Dwyer, and then Teresa beforehand to make sure we had a clear understanding.
Separately. yes.
Yeah, separately. Yep, I'm not starting anything. Clear understanding, we're staying within the CDD property, not going to the conservation area. So we're all in agreement. The stake that Dan or Mr. Dwyer said is the correct stake for the culvert in the middle. And then we went back and forth our options by the cul-de-sac, and I think we're in agreement what to do there. So
And you mentioned you might have somebody that you're aware of, a smaller firm that could come out and do the culvert setting.
yeah, there's a company we've used for their CDDs. They used to be called Site. Now they renamed themselves, but they're perfect for this size type project. So.
Small problem, because I don't know if we want to have our field people setting a culvert. Because, you have to have a proper slope and that can affect that conservation area on both sides of that trail.
Or the house
So-
right there.
So what's the next step? Is that do field services contact this person or?
I gotta do a one sheet special at the two locations, like 11 by 17 sketch. I will then give it to one or two companies to get a soft bid that I can bring back to the board and then you can authorize.
Okay, so we should have that next month.
I sure hope so, yeah. We're getting, just like Brett and everybody else, we're getting little, no responses on any bids we're putting out. Just everybody's really busy, so.
Does everybody else have fungus gnats too?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but as far as, I'll do the rough draft, but you're gonna do the final. So I'm not sure what, trust me.
It was all just kidding. It's some long nights.
I just don't wanna pay those, I don't want to send something to the county until we
I
know.
can take away your book.
That was 2 years of permitting it's over with.
So,
No, the other thing we're discussing, well, there's the update the contractor provided, which I thought was or Greg documented his conversations with CCI.
do we have the?
Here's copies for residents if they'd like them.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
This is for the paving project and, you know, it really turned out weird. Because here we came right up to it, we expected a lot of information to go out to our residents, letters and signs that we can advance and everything was to be coordinated. Came right up to it, found out nothing was coordinated, but in the same vein, the contractor was not ready either because of some equipment issues. So we've got another chance to do this right, guys.
No, we have the map we did originally, which will be updated. And that's a color coded map that Dan will put on the website. That shows each of the 5 phases in different colors with their month allocation.
You're
And
gonna
then
do the orange one first, right, such as primrose willow.
Same order.
orange, yes, the same order, we'll just shift it accordingly, yep.
Okay.
So,
But the bigger question is communication, right? Because there was no communication, you know,
Who's going to coordinate? Is it my understanding now that CCI is coordinating with waste haulers and the mail?
They will personally reach out to Postal Service and to Waste Management.
Okay, and so they will coordinate. Now, will they, it says here they will even put door hangers on the doors. That will communicate that.
If needed, as you read this, you'll see that the road will not be closed 24 hours a day for a month. They'll do the work in the morning, and when they go home end of the day, people can go back on the alley and park their car. They can't afford to have people go in and out every day because they got to stop, get out of the way, and that's just not going to work. You're going to get delay claims. And so it's understood that when you go to work in the morning, you can
You'll
come
be
back
able
at
to-
night to go home and go to sleep, but we can't have traffic in and out all
Don't
day.
come home for lunch now.
But they'll, yes, or just park in the street. They'll still allow the garbage.
Company that did 5 Oaks.
No,
Yeah.
no, that was the county.
Yeah, we wanted to piggyback with them, but they had the companies lined up. I
Yeah,
mean, the
they're-
projects lined up.
Yeah.
Just-
if somebody asked why isn't the county doing the work? Because it's a CDD property. It's not a county right away. And they'll allow the garbage trucks, if it's gonna be Monday or Tuesday or Monday and Wednesdays, they'll stop that day to get the garbage trucks in and out there, and then they'll continue. So they're not gonna make people move trash to the front.
It's Monday to
So
Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesdays, yeah, whatever they're gonna be told, they'll make the accommodation, because they usually get here, everybody's different, they usually start early in the morning.
Right.
And when they leave, they know they're done for the day and they can continue, so.
So this talks about door hangers, but how else are we going to notify residents?
Well, you're going to see what they call maintenance of traffic signage. Area under construction, I mean, that'll be hopefully a dead gate.
But in advance, well before the construction begins, about the mail and about the trash and about the recycling, you know.
To reassure our
So
residents.
this
none of is
weekend-
falling.
Yes, this weekend was the first time ever in my 14+ years of being a supervisor where I felt like, crap, I don't want to do this anymore. Because the communication was clearly so poor. And residents were saying, you know, everybody was saying, what are we doing here? Like, we didn't hear anything about this. We don't know anything about it. We don't know what to do. I didn't have any answers. I had to call poor Angel and Brett at, 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon or 7 o'clock or whatever time it was. I had people coming to my house.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing was that at the last meeting, we specifically said, we want all the, and there's not that many residents in any one phase. But we wanted all the residents informed and provided with the information at least a week in advance with signs up and everything.
So my question is,
And-
how is that going to happen this time?
Yeah, that's what we want. I'm not saying anybody, I thought it was gonna be our staff. I didn't think you were gonna do it. I didn't think the company was gonna do it. But it all fell apart and there were a lot of upset residents and we don't want that to happen again. So again, if we know the CCI is gonna do it, then that's fine. But what I'd like to do is make sure that in addition to whatever CCI does, that we get the information they obtained on coastal service and garbage and use of alleyways to,
So.
so you can
so
put in
David,
letters.
CPI, and all that's gonna provide us kind of just like this, a bullet point, waste management. Like you said, they're gonna stay, they're not gonna wait, they're gonna wait to start construction on Mondays and Tuesdays once they get all that ironed out, they'll send me that. I will put together something like this that can go to every door. Okay,
And on the website too.
sure,
Yeah,
that's on
and,
you.
and our, yeah.
And I can post it to Facebook for those
There
who
you
use Facebook.
I would say.
I'm not asking a question.
Tell you what, write it down, hand it to me.
Time thing, I mean, you're variation of morning and night. Do we offer a time?
Oh, that'll be nailed. I mean, usually they do from 7 to 5.
Yeah.
And maybe they do 4-day weeks. I'm not sure what their exact schedule, but all that will be itemized.
Yeah, just saying, you can offer a time that eliminates a lot of the confusion.
It'll all be on the sheet.
Right, so we're firm in how we're gonna get the word out.
Are we allowed to post stuff on Facebook, like news like that?
So one of us can post something that for the residents, but if there's anything that could possibly come before the board for a future decision on that issue, nobody else can respond. No other board members. can
And it's better that you don't
It's actually.
put it on in the first
Well,
place.
like he mentioned, it's subject to the record keeping, so anything you do, you should be, whether it's just you forward a screenshot to your district email address or something like that. Anything that you say in your capacity as a board member, wherever the forum is, like.
More than one board member is replying on a post, that creates
That's a
a
problem.
subject violation.
Right.
So Carol.
If
And you
If
comment
it's an
on it,
issue that's going to come before the board for consideration.
No,
Yeah,
It's just all of
I
it.
mean, if it's a.
I don't, probably.
The sunshine law is you can't talk to another board member about matters that may come before the board for action. I think that means discussion and vote.
correct.
So if it's anything like that, you can't do it. If it's something that doesn't have anything to do with CDDs or something that the CDD did 10 years ago that's never going to be revisited,
Right.
then technically it doesn't meet.
Right, like I could read what she writes in the magazine or something that's about CDD, but we're still not having a back and forth
Right,
discussion.
yeah.
As far as you reading it, but once you reply,
Right.
with, hey, I disagree with you.
Right, so to Carol's point, it's, yes, you can say, hey, I'm on the board and here's, what we did, here's what I think about something. But there can't be back and forth among board members.
The preference is,
To stay on
is
social media.
stay off social
Yes.
media.
That's the preference. and
That's the
recommendation.
preference. You've seen that it's
Yeah.
difficult to do
Yeah.
it sometimes.
I'm just trying to think of an easier way to notify.
That's what we've been
Hey,
talking
yeah.
about it every day.
There's like, if there's, can we do email, like,
Well, if we
Big ol'
had everybody's
but we
emails.
can
We
get it
don't-
probably.
No,
For public
Public
entities, HOAs are a little different. They have all of your emails, you sign up for email blast. and all
yeah,
that
but
kind
they
of
don't,
stuff.
they only have probably
Yeah, and whoever
60%.
pops in, districts don't have that capability because we are subject to public records laws.
We can't
So
tell.
typically what we do is we post stuff on the website. You have a district website that
Oh.
nobody really reads or goes on, or maybe they do. So that's really our
And we
main form
can't-
of communication.
The problem with giving us your email is that it becomes public record and if cameras or whoever want to request them. Yeah, we have to hand them over to them.
What I might suggest is just pay a little bit of money and get an electronic message board. Just put it around the neighborhood and it'll
Well,
say,
The other thing is, each phase is such a limited area.
Well, yeah, but we're
Basically,
talking kind
Tim
of,
was able to go up and down the street and tell everybody every update that came
but,
along.
but we need something that,
I think we could probably
Why
direct an
it's there.
electronic sign and, but.
not just for this, I'm talking about, yes, for this, but
There's
beyond
gonna be
that.
signs put out, Field already has them made, sign at this entrance of the alleyway, that will be put out as soon as we have the schedule saying this is the date it's gonna start. As soon as I get all the information from the CCI, detailed out, I will do a little bullet point of everything, and we will have field staff go and put it on everyone's door or in their mailbox, one of the two. We'll also post it online, Facebook, you wanna put it on your personal Facebook, whatever you wanna do, but we'll get it out as much as we can. We've asked HOA, unfortunately, we're not getting any responses from Mark.
If you just ask me, I'll ask Mark.
Okay,
Typically, he will respond.
yeah, he won't respond to us.
Well, and I made a post on Friday and it turned out they were closed for rodeo day,
Yeah.
so, yeah. So,
Yeah, but we've asked him
I
for
know.
things months prior, and he will not work with us, so.
all right,
Moving on.
the last thing, and I'm gonna leave with my cookies. An inspector. I can't find a firm yet who's willing to commit for 5 months. If I do find somebody between now and next meeting, can I get like an hourly not to exceed for 5,000 to get somebody engaged if I find somebody instead of waiting and they're gonna already be under construction?
We have the offer.
Project manager for this.
Just
project.
inspector, just an inspector,
Just an inspector.
Hopefully I'll get somebody at 70 or $80 an hour. That'll buy me several weeks, but I don't want to wait till March 30th or March 23rd. And CCI's been out there for 2 weeks and nobody's watching them.
Yeah, we need somebody watching.
This is the thing where communication, maybe we can't do it, but for a one-time thing, and we have all these engineers sitting here, they might know someone, so if we've had a way of getting this request out in the community, so it is unfortunate that our hands are tied as much as they are.
Yeah, well,
Thinking about the limitations of having to work with the restrictions of being a public entity.
Yeah.
so you want board action on that?
No,
Or it's
it
within-
would be within our authority, so what I'm gonna put in my meeting summary is David.
Just draw from our number for now and then we'll replenish when needed.
Yeah.
Okay,
David's continuing to look for an inspector, Angel and Teresa have the authority to work with David to get that approved.
thank you. I'll bring these back.
Okay.
I didn't want to open them in front of you, make a lot of noise.
No, get it away from the microphone and open it.
All right, district council, we're gonna table the in-depth discussion on.
Yeah, that's fine. There is a couple things I need to bring to the board's attention, though.
Yes.
So, and we will table the discussion or the report on the public records until the next meeting, if that's okay too. And the legislative update, we'll go ahead and table that too. 2 items. One is I got all the easement releases back from Birchwood. They're recorded. So that's really good. Just so you know, well, not every deed, but a lot of deeds that the district got from the developer said, okay, district, you own the property, but it reserved the right to use the property for basically whatever it wanted. So we didn't really get the property. We got title and liability, but we didn't get use. So I was able to track down people who I've worked with a long time ago. And through those relationships, we're able to get those easements released. So the developer gave up their rights. The only thing the developer would not do is say, I'm not going to tell you that I haven't assigned them somewhere in the past. I don't know if I have or not. And they weren't going to spend any money to go back and research their records. So we got those easement releases. That's the first thing. The second thing is for some of those properties, you really can't use. Some of those properties you can use. And so I think what we need to do is work with the chair to identify any of those properties for which the easements have been released that could be useful to the district in terms of any kind of vertical development at some point in the future, and order a title search for those properties. And I know that there's one I know of, and that may be it. Title search is usually around, $150 to $250. So I'd like to go ahead and work with the chair to get those title searches ordered so we know if those have been assigned. I don't need a motion for that. I think I can just do that. And then the other thing that's kind of important for me to bring to your attention is Jer Earlywine is an attorney who was my partner for many years. I don't know if you know that name or not. At Hopping Green and Sam's, when Hopping Green and Sam's wound down, he went out on his own with some other attorneys. He represents Harmony West, and we hired Jer on the 7th. So Jer now works for us, which means it is, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. And so, which means that you have an agreement, I've never read it, but you have an agreement with Harmony West related to some certain things. So what that means is that neither Jer nor I would be able to provide our boards with advice and counsel related to that agreement. We could still serve as your counsel if you wanted us to, but we couldn't provide advice to either one because we're in the same firm on that same agreement. So to the extent that you had legal questions about that agreement, what your rights were or are, you would have to talk to an independent attorney that doesn't have that conflict. I've never been asked to look at that agreement, but I'm sure at some point you'll have questions on that.
I was getting ready
And-
to ask. It's coming up, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, no, I need to bring it to your attention, and you all can handle it however you want, but it's the kind of conflict I would never ask the board for a waiver of. I would just distance myself, and I wouldn't give advice, and then Jer wouldn't give advice on his side. So, and we have lots of districts that we actually represent that have these types of agreements, and that's how we handle it. A lot of times your bond counsel is the one that you'll call to say, hey, can you have somebody in your office look at this? So I need to bring that to your attention, but other than that, the rest of the stuff I had can wait.
Okay.
And still no records from the previous.
From Mr. Qualls.
We'll deal with that next. That's.
So we got
It'll be interesting.
you and I can talk offline. Yeah.
I think we got a data dump that we gave to them and then they. Yeah. District's managers report.
Thank you, sir.
The only thing I have, and it's short and sweet, I'm gonna bring it up at your next meeting, is your website. I know we've been talking, and I know Mr. Lee, he has a full plate and he does a lot of stuff, so we did look into it with Campus Suite as a third party, and I think the biggest question was that they charge per page, and you guys put a lot of stuff. Well, they don't do that anymore. So it's a flat fee. It's like $15.85 annually. And the other question was, would you still have the same website? What they would do is take all of your data and put it onto a more templated, clean website. And then you still own it and all that, but then they would start putting in the data, you'd be able to put whatever you want on it, and there is no page count. So you could put your full agenda on it, you could put notices, whatever you would like, where before it was like $1.05 per page or $1.09 per page over 750 pages annually. They don't do that anymore. They have foregone that. So something to think about, but a proposal for you to look at will be in your next agenda. Maybe to take some of the stuff off of Mr. Lee.
And then just one other item that we should discuss on here. We had some problems with events over the last month.
Yes.
What's happened is Harmony has a special exception with the county that if you hold an event in Harmony, you don't have to get a special event permit from the county. You still have to abide by all their safety procedures. You have to get a permit to close roads. You have to do all that stuff, but you don't have to get the special events. And word got out that everybody thought you could close the roads without having that permit from the county, which is not the case. We ended up, we're attracting events from people outside of Harmony that are coming in the Harmony put on events. So I think
Without applying to do so.
without applying to do so. They were instructed that they didn't have to do any of this. So at this point, we need to very clearly and uniformly apply our event registration and reservation for use of any of our facilities so that we have that. In addition, we need to make sure that the proper insurances are up to date. I think the HROA they dropped their blanket insurance and are gonna have to do insurance by events. So that's why we need to get that information and apply it uniformly, because if we start giving somebody special privileges not to request a reservation, then that opens it up and it gets ugly. So
On your next agenda, we need to revise the form. I'm gonna look at it, revise it. I'll make sure legal, everything that we need on is on
Yes,
there.
remember, trash removal needs to be on there.
Yes, and, permits and all of this stuff, a safety plan, all of those things need to be submitted with the form. Yes, and I'll make sure that,
Insurance.
council has his eye on it to see if there's anything we're lacking. But it's gotta be revised because it's actually getting out of control.
So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Any other critical business that needs to be addressed?
Can I just clarify on that? So when someone wants to have an event, let's say someone in the community decides to throw a great big birthday bash at the square, we don't make the approval. It goes through Infomart, right?
Only to a certain point.
To a
If it's
certain
over
size.
a certain amount of attendees, then it has to come to the board.
Yeah, but I
Or
mean, the
if
board doesn't typically even know if
Right.
someone is doing that.
Well, if they want exclusive use of like, the pavilion or something like that, those are,
Yeah.
there's a form for.
Or if they want a waiver of the fee, like the church wants to do an Easter service.
Or the school district about the police for the.
Right, then they would come to, otherwise,
Otherwise, if it's just one of our families having a birthday bash at the pool or the town square or something, that would just.
they just go through Infomart and we don't even know about it unless we're invited. Okay.
And not to drag us out, so, but again, the question being if it's, if the event is primarily taking place on the street or sidewalk, as in, are we saying that we need to still be involved in the approval process just for garbage collection? Sidewalks are ours, yes.
They still have to get the road, you can't close a road. You just can't, and.
So like the market, for example.
Correct.
That's a big whole approval process, right? And so does Jennifer lead that effort? Who like?
She does, that there's a disconnect on, they think that the road, they don't have to close the road down and they don't have to get county permission, and they do, and there's actually a fine if you don't do it, because emergency vehicles still have to get up and down.
Yeah, and they have to know about it.
So you still have to go through the county process, and
So what will be helpful is just whatever information we have backing that up, because there's, I heard this, or I saw this, or we've always done this, so.
It's always been like that, right? It hasn't just recently changed that.
No, it's been that people have not been following the law. Is the problem. Yes, it's always been that way in county ordinances and everything. So the law nothing's changed in the law. It's just when it was just Harmony doing the events, it was a lot looser and, but again, now that we're getting big outside firms coming in, we have to uniformly apply the law in order for it to be applied.
Maybe that's where the disconnect was, where we're starting to force it, and then people just thought, oh, we can.
Well, there are people
Well, there's
who,
been some resistance.
yes, there are people who are part of law enforcement who say, oh, no, you don't need a permit, but they're not the county folks who issue the permits, right? So, they're saying, no, you don't need a permit, and that sounds like, because it's coming from somebody who's in law enforcement or who's married to law enforcement, it sounds like it's official, but it's not the full picture. And that is often the case on social media. It's it's a sliver of.
Because if they know ahead of time that a road is closed and an emergency vehicle is coming, they change their route, correct?
Right.
Or they require that the events have some
Provision.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Okay, anyone else have anything?
For the district manager.
That has to. Okay.
Consent agenda. Move to approve as amended.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. This is the consent agenda. There are certain things we have to approve at every meeting, and that's our financial,
Minutes, financials, invoices, and check register. And it's under the consent agenda and they approve it all at once, but that does not mean if you have questions, concerns, or anything like that, that you can't
pull it out.
and invoice it. And the minutes, for your information, have been amended. Council provided some amendments, Kramer and Castle provided some amendments, and those have been made and those were finalized. So with amendments to the minutes. Yep.
And those will go out a week in advance, so you'll have the time to review.
We received all this in email.
Yeah.
Previously.
And it's on the website.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Anything else we need to do?
I just have one quick question.
Supervisor's request for next agenda.
I do, but
Okay.
I'm just gonna, but go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about the school thing. So, was I reading that chart right? They're expecting we could end up with 1,500 kids in that school?
Yeah, if we have portables.
And are those students, do we have the right to say no, or are they coming anyway? And we just have to get permission for the portables?
CDD doesn't.
We
really
don't,
have-
we can't, we
say
have
anything
nothing to
other
say.
than Get and distribute information.
So those kids are coming.
They're just being a good partner
By letting us know.
Oh, so even the portables, we don't have to.
Well,
So we don't.
Oh,
Well, they said the other option was just doing more of the, co-teaching.
yeah, okay. I'm not against the ring. I just.
Right.
I want to make sure I
Yeah,
understood.
there was some confusion last time this happened. People thought that the CDD could prohibit it, but we have no ability to prohibit it.
So this morning, I went to the airport to pick up a friend and I happened to leave my house. It's on corner of Pond Pine and Cup Seed. And like a dummy, I went right up Cup Seed and it took me 7 minutes to get,
Yes, I live right across.
yes.
Yes.
Always get
And
it.
every time I go out the west entrance.
Yeah.
At 8 AM and
Anyway.
2:30.
Yeah, I should have gone past your house instead.
Supervisor's request for.
Yes, for next agenda. So I'm just gonna pass this out. We had an offer of amaryllis bulbs. We will discuss next time. Here's some information, or just FYI. The other thing is that, in speaking with we've had vandalism on the trails that, Harmony, Florida Land owns. And so I went to the developer to say, do you want to, assign your authority to press charges to the HOA or resident or whatever? He said, well, actually, I'd like to give the land to the CBD. So it's something,
That's
he did not
between-
specify what land in particular, but we were talking about the Butterfly Trail area. So when I just said I would bring it up at the meeting tonight, and that's as far as I went.
Ask him to basic, if you just tell us what parcel numbers they're interested, because we need to tread carefully. Because of the overall finding firm and our responsibility,
Right.
then would be if
Yeah.
we accepted a donation, then we accept. the
And
liability.
Right.
Well, and beyond that, I think that area is already within Harmony West's boundary.
Boundary, so we, yeah.
So
So but definitely inquire further with him and ask him if he can just give you an
Okay.
idea of what he's interested in.
Okay.
And we have to consider it very carefully.
Yeah.
I know the donation of land looks attractive, but it comes.
Oh,
with
yeah,
a
no,
lot
Right.
I
cost.
did not assume that we would want to do it. I just simply said that he made the offer and that I would bring it to the board for discussion, and we will discuss it next time. And those are the only two things I think I had.
All right.
this being a dead horse, and I know the RV lot is scheduled to close and is going to be closing day after our next meeting. They're not really, just it was brought up in this, communicating this, it was, mentioned that, well, maybe there's a way we could, stretch out the process and be given leniency or something. I have reached out to the county and to the fire marshal, because, it was never really mentioned that the fire marshal ever said anything beyond will grandfather in an old approved road or a new road has to be up the code. There was never any mention of what the current state is, which is a current but not approved road. So I asked for clarification on that and thinking outside the box. There is an access easement that exists between Feathergrass and Meadowbrook, which I don't think that is up to any, I asked in my question to the county and the fire marshal if, there's this other example of an access easement.
That's, again, that's an access easement, it's supposedly for use of emergency vehicles.
Right. Well, so that was my question. If that's yeah, I'm saying I asked the question. Sure, I understand. I just put the question out. Well, I contacted the fire marshal, Kelly, over the weekend. She didn't get back to me. I called yesterday. I'm just saying that, we haven't given up on it yet. We are trying all approaches.
I spent
Wait a
over,
minute, we did give up.
Well, yeah, but,
I mean, it's.
when we,
closed.
it's closing and that's not changing. Yes.
Okay.
So to give no,
the, understand, and I spent an extensive period of time because we had to find out about moving the staff.
yes.
And it's very clear that, yeah.
Right.
It's not gonna work. And
So what is our,
also word back, because both Angel got it and I got it, is the county just. I think this quote was, can you get them off our backs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it wasn't even
they
that
are,
nice.
Okay.
yeah, they are less than amused by the continuing.
yeah, I understand. So, and do we have a date that we were given for getting our stuff out of there? Or is this where maybe some leniency is
And
being shown?
as far as closing down the staff trailer and moving that ASAP.
Okay,
Maybe a little more leniency on the other, but not a whole.
okay, perfect.
As long as we are moving forward with due diligence and not dragging on.
There we go. All right, thank you.
Move to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Oh,
no. Just right there.
I
I withdraw.
Second. All right. So are you happy about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys for staying.
Thank you. so
I send you that
much.
book and you.
Sean, thank you.
Sean?
Mike, thank you very much.
The reason I wrote that note is because when they had that tax meeting 2 years ago, county law is when students reach a certain limit, they